All right, what's going on, everybody? This
What it
is
do?
the To Be Fair show, presenting Unpacked, a deeper dive into really nuanced conversations. Today we got what I believe is a really interesting, really fire topic. But before that, I'm gonna introduce, or no, I'm not gonna introduce it. I'm gonna allow the panel to kind of introduce themselves, and we'll kind of build the conversation. Yeah. So we'll start clockwise. Up top right corner, Johnny.
What up? What up? It's your boy Johnny P. Y'all saw me last week. Great conversation last week. Um, I think we're gonna touch on a few things. Quint got us lined up again. I got some things I want to add from last week. So, looking forward to another productive conversation.
What's going on, Tone? From the background on the podcast, to be fair, ready to get into the topics. Let's get it.
Gotcha. We got a special guest. I'll allow you to introduce yourself. I don't know if you want to give a little background to the audience. You have been on the podcast before, but it's always great to reintroduce you to our audience.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? I go by A Black. It's an honor to be back on the To Be Fair show. I appreciate you guys inviting me. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm an artist. I'm into marketing. I'm into history and culture. And that's it for now.
Gotcha. So I guess before we kind of like dive deep and get too far, we did have a real fun conversation last week. Any commentary, any words, any thoughts on that? Anything that y'all want to kind of book in from last week before we get into this next conversation, which still is going to be a piggyback off of that. I don't know, Johnny, how you feeling?
Oh, I think it's like I say, I want to let us get into it before I touch back on some of the stuff. But like I said, I think balance is important when we look at it and we talking discussions, especially on like political spectrums. I think there's a lot of them, necessity on both sides, the left and the right. I don't think you can have a right without the left and vice versa, the left without the right. So I think one of the goals that we want to do is try to figure out where we land in that spectrum and then look at the candidates and see which one best align with our own political goals. So we just talking about the candidates and we go into the racism. I'll wait on that.
Gotcha. Anybody else?
Yeah, pretty much my sentiments from last week go along the lines of what we about to talk about today. Wherein I kind of think like we can get lost in the conversation sometimes. Like I think we had a good conversation going, and I think we kind of got lost at the end there because we got stuck where we got stuck. So I think like this is the perfect one to follow up so we can address that and like.
What do you think we got stuck at?
On the racism thing. Like it's like it's the same topic whenever we get into racism or white supremacy conversations, it's always it just keeps going in the same circle. It's the same topic. It's not really at this point. It's like what solution is that causing? We done had these same conversations over and over again.
Okay.
Like I'm more interested in what people really think, regardless of what I got to say about it. I want to know what you really think.
I dig it. So I guess. Go ahead, bro.
Oh yeah, I thought that it was pretty interesting not so it wasn't like it was mind-boggling or anything, but as y'all got to Trump, that literally transitioned itself. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the information and the propaganda that we were getting during that time period, that it was such an easy transition. I felt like as I was watching, it was like a seamless thing that happened. As you start talking about Trump, you literally get into white supremacy and all of this, the Confederate flag and everything kind of, it kind of, you know what I mean, start to roll downhill once y'all got to Trump. And I'm not saying that this is not like something that, it's not like I want to say something that was not expected. You know what I mean? It makes sense based on what we were told during that time period. But it was very interesting how, it went down that line of thinking and line of questioning as y'all went from Trump on. It seemed like that was like the initial, because with Biden it was pretty cool and pretty smooth. It sounded very informative, and then we get to Trump, and then next thing you know, we go downhill to the white supremacy and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'll say, can I interject?
Johnny got to defend himself. Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, no, it's not even me. It's the whole panel. Because I'll say, I believe that we talked about, a lot of Biden and some of his racism also before we even got to Trump. I think we were like
race was a theme of the beginning of it.
The two.
Yeah,
so I don't just started with Trump. No, I think Patrick said he was a Trump supporter. I think he called in when we started talking about Trump, and then that's what took it to another space because another voice came in. But I will, since we're talking about, I think it's two different conversations. When we're having a conversation just amongst us and what we need to do in order to get to where we want to go, and then when you bring in somebody from the other side that might not look like us, I think that's a different conversation from what we want from them.
Gotcha. So Johnny, I think that kind of leads itself as the perfect segue, where Patrick, yes, the conversation did get derailed, and I think it was an interesting spot where I thought that we ended up getting stuck at for a second, where the appeal for empathy, I think that was like really interesting spot in space. The appeal for empathy for white people specifically. And I guess I'll allow this to kind of like lead us to my first question. Is the plight of the Black struggle important for others to recognize? And if so, how much?
I mean, I think anybody's struggle is important to recognize.
Okay.
I don't want to keep on going back to the same example, but if you look at the Holocaust, that's something that's you can't even say it wasn't a big deal because you have to respect how they feel about it. And I don't feel like the same respect is put on our struggle when we say that we feel a certain way about how it's discussed and talked about and taught. People just, well, whatever, And so I think it's very important if it's important for anybody else, if it's important, for the who was it? The Armenian.
But I guess I don't want to kind of like deflect. I'm speaking specifically the Black struggle in America. How important is it for others to recognize that specifically? Because again, like that's where you and Trey kind of got bogged down at, and I guess that leads to like just a good conversation to start off with.
Well, I mean, of course, it's important because I don't think we're where we want to be. I think if you ask Black people as a consensus, I don't think we've achieved and got to the things collectively that we want. So I mean, if we're not there, I think our struggle is still important. We haven't made it yet.
Got you. A Black.
Yeah. All right, my bad. The connection dropped. So, what was your original question?
Oh, gotcha. Is the plight of the Black struggle important for others to recognize, and if so, how much?
Oh yeah, I think it's paramount. I think they recognize it. It's important that they care. I feel like that's really the issue as far as the Black struggle, us receiving any type of reparations, is them caring about us, which inevitably they don't because they kind of dismiss it. That's how we even got this whole bootstrap concept. But when you see every other kind of demographic, they've had concessions that have put them where they are. And if they don't have that, they at least have a country or a continent backing them to make sure that they're not fucked with. So, even white people, when you go back to damn near colonial times when they was moving out west and they were, giving out land grants and they were giving out low interest rates for homes, and they were creating like state sponsored colleges to teach them farming, to teach them ways to till their land. Like we never really get anything to get us ahead consistently. It's kind of like you get crumbs and you get this illusion of help. And like I wasn't on last week's show, But you know, I know you guys are talking about Trump and Biden, and it kind of make me think it's like never in American history has there ever been an old white man that has pushed for anything of progress for Black people that didn't fit his own agenda. And the gap is so wide from Abraham Lincoln to freeing the slaves, but that was his agenda to weaken the Confederacy, to, you know, Bernie Sanders, who might be the closest, but they won't give him any power. So when you think of racism in a sense of, you know, power and systematic power, you know, Joe Biden would be the biggest racist because he's been a senator and been in politics since before we were born and able to implement laws that directly affect us. Whereas Trump, more prejudiced. Trump is that he's that white friend that says all colored things. You know, I know y'all mentioned his housing tactics in New York and stuff, but even with that, to me, that was more his business side. His, you know, he's more money motivated, and sometimes that can come off as racist. But you know, to me, the real racism is like when it's shrouded, when you can't see it, versus somebody who's loud, who's affable. You can see Trump coming. You know, they both snakes, but you got a snake in Trump. You can hear him in the forest, and Biden is that
rattlesnake,
that green snake that, you know, you think everything's cool because you don't see him, you know, and Black people get comfortable with Democrats and Democratic tactics because they feel like if we got them, we're comfortable. The most, I want to say, good thing about the Trump presidency was people were aware more than ever in politics because there was this sense of constant fear. He was his boogeyman, so people actually paid attention to what he was doing, what he was saying every day. People was talking about, you know, what he did, and you know, COVID played a part in that too, of everybody, you know, being at home as well. But now with this next election, they can't really play the boogeyman card because you've had a Trump presidency, you had a Biden presidency, and now you kind of judge based on what did you get from either, because neither one of them are out to help us. So who can you manipulate? Who can you get something from? And one thing you know about Trump is he want to be liked. He want that cool factor.
Yeah.
That's my sentiments exactly. That's my sentiments exactly, man. Like I've been saying the same thing. Trump wants to be liked, so he's whatever he says he's going to do. He usually does it because he wants people to like him, and that's something that we can actually use to our advantage.
Exactly. Well, Trump's a businessman, so businessmen always looking to make a deal, and so he's not willing to. I mean, he's not against, you know, giving you something if it means you're gonna, you know, give him something back, like vote for him in November. He's definitely willing to come to the table and deal.
Oh no,
and
for sure.
So I think that's something where I think maybe Black people maybe need to take advantage of. Like you say, we got
Black people need to apologize to Ice Cube because Ice Cube was trying to do that.
Damn it, I was just about to say that, bro. I was just about to
like I was like, Ice Cube was trying to do it, and then all of a sudden everybody was like, Ice Cube a racist, and I'm like, what? Ice Cube, really? Like,
listen. I remember who was that? 2020 getting canceled by my family for even like trying to hear both sides. Well, I wasn't like really canceled.
I can't even go talk to the man.
Yeah. Right. All right, so before I ask Tone the same question, let me go to these comments because maybe they'll side with y'all sentiments. First one says, what does it say? We have to first want to stop worrying about what others think of us and do for self. Says, why do we care if they think? I mean, why do we care if they care? And it said, dude from last week said, and I agree. Why do you care what I think? I would answer that. Tone, Johnny, not Johnny, Rail. I'll let y'all kind of answer the question. The plight of the Black struggle, is it important for others to recognize, empathize, et cetera, et cetera?
I do think it's important for others to recognize, but I don't think it's important for us to be pushing the sentiment that they recognize it, more so than pushing the character that needs to be recognized. If that makes sense. The character that we're known for is our own fault. Like, this isn't just like it could have been systematic at some point, but I'm like, I'm more worried about, I'm not going outside worrying about some Ku Klux Klan member killing me. I'm more worried about somebody that I know in the neighborhood that's my color doing something to me than I am about a Ku Klux Klan member coming up to me and doing something. Like, I'm like, that's what's really going on at this point, and we got stuff to do about that. So yeah, we got to worry about ourselves and stop putting the focus more so on that. And it'll be recognized that, yeah, I do think it's important, but I just leave it at that.
Yeah, for me, I'd say, like, I do think it's important. I think that us wanting the everyday white man to acknowledge is unnecessary. I think that, like, we have to think about, like, when we say racism, and we talked about this on the pod previously. We're talking about the systematic racism, the actual the infrastructure of racism. That's the more important thing than worrying about whether Patrick wants to have a Confederate flag or not, and all of that. To me, that's irrelevant because when you sit here and see Wells Fargo and Navy Federal as well having these loans, that not giving loans to black people that qualify, these are like the actual things that we have to actually fight against versus sitting here and worrying about the white man that lives over there in downtown or uptown, what he thinks of me. Like, to me, that's counterproductive. It doesn't really matter what the everyday man thinks. It's more about the actual infrastructure and the actual system behind it. And I think we get too caught up. Whereas there are absolutely more white, just everyday white people that do have empathy for the black community and everything that's happened to us versus the actual system. That the system. No. Okay, Nana. I'm coming. I'm coming. Yeah, she coming to
Quick
check.
break. Yeah. You want to finish or if you need a break, let me know.
Oh yeah, that I'm finished there. She on my head.
Hey, Black, it looked like you got something to say.
Yeah, so I was looking at some of the comments, and one was saying that, why do we care what they think, and all of this, which partially I agree, but I know we had a topic, so I was staying on topic. As long as we in America, we've seen how we've been treated in America. So to be like, well, I don't care what they think, anything can be done to you when you don't care what they think. And we all know the people care the most are the ones who say that they don't care. But in the context of reparations, if you are wanting,
let's not move to reparations yet. We'll wait for reparations. Just stay on the idea of like empathy, like them recognizing whether it's slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, XYZ. When it comes down to like the current state of where the black community is, and if that should be a consideration in empathizing with, maybe some of the quote unquote faults of black culture.
Yeah. I mean, you got to care to recognize it. It's not hidden. So I mean, that kind of goes back to what I was saying about, like, yeah, we don't care what they think. Yeah, black people have to do for self. Like, we all know that, but that's not being done. We know our economic power and our strength, and we know most of our money is not going back into our community. So it's like, we can keep saying those tropes, but it's not happening. We're not doing for self. We know we should, yeah. But I'm just responding to comments, and in the last comment about presidents don't have no power, and that's mostly true. But in the sense of Trump, who is an anomaly to presidents because he was a billionaire when he came in, because he financed most of his campaign, whereas most presidents are financed by corporations and lobbyists. This is why they hate him so much, because he does have more power, because he doesn't have more people to answer to like a typical president. So that was my response to that comment of why, especially Jewish people who put a lot of interest in lobbies and with their corporations into the presidency, they hate Trump, and a lot of certain type of white people hate Trump. Most black people hate him just because of the emotional side of it, but nothing really been done for him. He didn't put you back in chains. your life trajectory is still pretty much the same as it was with Obama or anybody else. So I was more so kind of speaking in the comments because I didn't want them to kind of get lost in the conversation. But yeah, we to be acknowledged, you got to care. And if they don't care about us, they're not going to acknowledge these things. And it's like, what are we talking about if we don't care about what they think?
Gotcha.
So I have a question. I have a question about that though.
Okay.
So what does and I'm talking? It sounds like we're talking about like the general population, right? What does their acknowledgement look like?
Okay, let me answer that because I've been wanting to chime in. I think that's it ain't got to be like some kumbaya, like we all holding hand crying. Sometimes the acknowledgement could just be like a respect, a healthy respect, and whether that's out of love, whether that's out of fear, whether that's out of intimidation. I think there's a balance, and I think sometimes we get caught up in the we got to do for self, and why do we care? What they think. I think we have to do for self and care what they think at the same time. They both can be true at the same time. If you go back to like the 60s, it was Martin, but it was also Malcolm. And I don't think the Martin would be as effective if there wasn't the alternative of a Malcolm. And I think that the sometimes we might have to hold them a little bit more accountable. We might have to press these issues a little harder so they can understand. But think about like A Black was saying, think about like the Jewish community. There's a lot of things about their struggle we scared to even say. We scared to even think, discuss them wrong. But like they've taken out African American studies in the schools. So it's like there's a different level of respect for each other's struggles. And if we just say we don't care what they think, they can continue to, underwrite our history and tell our history however they want to. So there has to be a certain respect on our history in order for it won't happen. So we can see where we came from to know where we're going. So that's my only thing about why do we care what they think? Because they got a lot of the power now. So we need to care a lot what they think.
And I've heard that previously. So is do you believe that if we don't if they let's say just an extreme case, if they do take, let's say, slavery out of the school books and they don't teach slavery anymore, they don't teach like black slavery and none of that, do you believe that if they don't teach it that it'll be lost and then black people could become slaves again?
I don't think it's gonna go that far, but I think what you will then hear is a lot of white people now claiming that they're the victims of racism. And racism won't be a thing until they're the victims of it. And then everybody would have to care about them being treated bad. They already starting that. So they already saying they don't want to teach our history while claiming that they're the victims of racism. Like in the same thing. So like we have to be careful what they're doing. They trying to literally take away our history and replace us. And so you speak a lot on like the religion and kind of what's happened with like how people can get replaced in history. And
Hmm.
you come back 100, 200 years ago, and the real people who's the victim are the people that's getting the reward. So
And
that's why we have
that's
to be
where I
careful.
was trying not to even go there, but that's what I was sitting there thinking the whole time. It's like the reason I think it's important to recognize is because of who we actually are. But the sentiment I wanted to go along, Q, how did you word your question again?
Is recognizing the plight of the black struggle important for others to recognize? I guess I did put empathize at the when I asked you as well. But
Hmm.
well, yeah, I guess just recognize. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I think that we've lost touch with over time is what we've actually been through. Like as far as like our people are not even aware of what actually happened. Most of us, we're aware of the story that we was told in school and just the slavery. A lot of us don't know what happened before that. A lot of us don't know the specific slaves that was brought over here, or why these specific people were brought over here, or who was the people that sent them over here. Like we just know like little blatant stuff. So a lot of us don't even know what happened to be sitting there asking for somebody else to acknowledge what happened. Now,
Okay.
while I do think it's important that they do recognize it, I think it's important for, I say, without going into too much, because I'm not trying to go too deep, but I would say it's important for biblical reasons, but it's also important for biblical reasons that we recognize who we are.
Gotcha.
And I'll just leave it at that.
So I guess I'll build it, and then I'm gonna stir the pot a little bit. Uh, so one of the themes of the show was accountability versus empathy. in which, again, like the beginning of this question is kind of the appeal to empathy for things and situations in the past that one would say is why us as Black people have been, you know what I mean, like we've been given, you know, not two slices of bread, but 1.5, maybe just one, maybe half, depending on how you want to look at it. I've been on the Black conservative Reddits, and this is what they told me to ask y'all. They told me to ask y'all, is blaming slavery in the past for today a version of victim mentality?
But what about all the stuff that happened after slavery? Can we, like, I mean, it's not, it didn't just stop at slavery. It's not like white
Well,
people.
that's what in the past. So,
What about? I mean, is it victim mentality? Uh,
mhm,
Yeah, the crack epidemic.
is I mean. See, saying this a touchy subject. Is this a touchy subject? I mean, are we gonna tell the girl who wore the skirt at the party that she shouldn't have wore the skirt and went to the party, or should them dudes not have done that?
mhm,
Like, what are we talking about? Like, I mean, like, yeah, it could be victim blaming. Sometimes you need to be a little more responsible and know your surroundings. But like, bad
mhm,
people gonna be bad people at the end of the day. And so, like,
mhm.
yeah, you can't just say a little bit. Yes, a little bit of victim blaming, but I mean, is
Victim
that?
mentality.
I mean, a little bit, but bad people still bad people.
Hey, Black.
Yeah, nah, I only think it's a victim mentality when you are not like making active ways to progress and uplift yourself, and you use it as a crutch and an excuse of why you can't do anything. But to completely like not acknowledge it's crazy because we were slaves longer than we've been free, meaning that like there are a lot of effects from that institution
Mm-hmm.
that still affect us in so many different ways. It's so many different layers, and like you said earlier, like slavery just the beginning. You got post traumatic slave syndrome. You got segregation, and integration. You got the civil rights movement. You got Tuskegee experience. You got all these things that like shape the psychological being of a people, of a small population, of a microcosm, like because Black people is nothing like us on the planet. And these effects came from slavery. How we view each other, how we view our women, how we have sex, like how our women carry and portray themselves, how they see themselves sexually. Like it
Mhm,
just it's so many ways. So you can't dismiss it when you still got mass incarceration now, and that's just a remix of slavery and the slave system and stuff. So, but at the same
mhm,
time, you can't like, oh shit, we the slaves, so I can't do nothing. I ain't gonna get no job. I ain't gonna do nothing. I ain't gonna go to school. I ain't gonna get no education. I used to be a slave, So that would be a victim mentality when you're not trying at all. But you can't dismiss the trauma and the effects, the lasting effects that we still see, from the people who are not like on no intellectual scope as us. That you go in any hood in America and you still see the effects of slavery. So nah, that's you can't dismiss it, because like I say, we were slaves way longer than we've been free. So the effects are definitely still there. We
mhm,
just got technology and hoodies and cars and the illusion of freedom in a lot of ways. But if you want to go to Nairobi on Friday, it might not be that easy. If you want to go buy some land on Sunday, it might not. So when you start looking at freedom on a large scope, like how free are you? How free are we?
So
How
I guess let me ask you this piggyback question. So what level of accountability does the current Black person have when it comes down to getting themselves out of the situation that they are in? Even do like given circumstances and the history and enslavement, and again like the vast history after of enslavement, again pretty much the whole 1900 century.
I think the level of accountability is based on the level of knowledge that you have. If you haven't been exposed to who you are, what you could be. You lived in a bubble in your geographical location. You haven't been granted the certain education, certain knowledge, certain know-how, it's only so much responsible or accountable you can be for your progression because you haven't been given the tools and the resources to progress. So I think the accountability comes in when you've been given those tools, you've been given those resources, when you know your history, when you know what's affecting us, and you're not trying to create no type of change on any type of scale. That's when it's like, all right, we fucked up out here, and you're not doing nothing about it. But if you don't know, then you can't go. Like a lot of people don't know things. Like,
I dig it. Real.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, like, and this is like, in all honesty, I don't believe that, like, and so this is, and I feel like the question is like, based in your current life, right? The current life that you live, each of us, do you feel that the information, which I believe history is important, I do believe it's important. I believe that I don't think that they should just do away with our history and just call niggas workers and, you know what I mean, all of that type of stuff. But what my question is like, how much of an impact do you think that your knowledge of the slavery and all of these different things, or like the fight of the black people, how much has that helped you and aided you in the decision making that you've made, or the decisions that you've made in order to become what you've become as an individual?
I'll say
Has it
this.
had more of a positive impact or a negative impact too?
Yeah, like
But
how? Because I mean, I'm assuming, like, based on I know a good bit about the guys on the podcast. I mean, on the show, and it's like, what do you feel contributed from the knowledge that you gained of knowing the white man's history of us? How has that contributed to you moving the way that you move and accomplishing the things that you accomplished?
let me answer that, because like we were talking about, like the effects. I think if you know the history, and like if you go all
Mhm.
the way back, if you know what we were before slavery, and then you look at
Right.
us after slavery and and what we are now. I mean, there's a change. There's one change, and even not even slavery. Look at Africa, pre-colonization, post-colonization,
Hmm.
and so and there's one constant. There's one constant in that, knowing what they did and knowing the game, because we live in their world. It's their world. We live by under we speak their languages. We live under their government systems, under their constitutions. Knowing how they operate, it teaches me some of the things that we need to be able to do in order to operate. So we can say we don't care what they think, and it's up to us. It is up to us, but we have to know the game that we playing. And like we
Right.
sitting up here talking about Democrat versus Republican, one of the things they don't do is vote for one political party. They, you know, Cone and did Dutch sovereignty. So there's a lot of things that you can take from the history and what's happened to us and use that in a game plan moving forward. I mean, we have to. It's the same government. They use the same government to enslave us. So we have the same government that we can, work and fight for our freedom. The same tools. So I think it's very important to know, so you know what's able to happen, what we can do and can't do.
Tone is blaming white oppression, white supremacy, a version of victim mentality.
Okay, so I want to address that in a couple of different ways. While I do think it's important for us to know what went on and everything, one of the things that I've recognized just looking at stuff from different, I've been looking at a lot of different stuff from history, a lot of different media from things that was going on, and books and everything. And
Hmm.
what I've come to realize is the people who was actually going through these times, like the people who was in slavery, the people who was going through Jim Crow, the people, like when you talk to them, they weren't just living in fear. And that's one of the things. It's like, to a degree, there none of us have actually lived in a time where we had to be living with, like, in the slavery that we've been taught about, or in the Jim Crow version of what we've heard about. None of us had to grow up in that. We had to deal with some prejudiced people here and there. That might have been the situation, but none of us had to actually grow up in that. It's just stories for us. But what is done, like, I think we talk about it more than the people who actually went through it. And that's where there is a type of victim mentality at.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say, like, I agree with Tone 100%. And y'all know, I tell you this, so y'all know where I live in the heart of I ain't gonna say the heart of it, but like I live in a lot of turmoil. You know what I mean? Shit go on around here, and like when I listen to the older dudes around, bro, the victim mentality is very strong. It's very strong. They're blaming, like, bro, you're not gonna. At the end of the day, this is my how I feel. At this point, bro, I understand. Like I said, I acknowledge the Wells Fargo, Navy Federal too, which I thought Navy Federal was a good bank. I've been banking with Navy Federal for a long time. I worked for Wells Fargo, and you know what I mean, we done heard what they done. You know what I mean? The institution of racism, those types of things. At the same time, I think that like we OD beating up on the idea of it. Like I think that at the end of the day, we're very much too strong on the victim mentality. A lot of where we sit here, like I think that all of us here have putting our foot in the ground, and we've, you know what I mean, made ourselves to be the men that we've become. And nothing like we can sit here and say like, oh well, me knowing the history, I ain't really dove into like the history like that to figure out all of these, you know what I mean? I've not been that guy, but I can tell you that like credit, uh, 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 the buying a home and all of the things that we know now to be constructive to push you forward have nothing to do with this victim mentality. I think that like you're just beating yourself down, and it gives you a excuse to kind of stay where you are. And I've noticed that a lot around me in the area that I live with the guys 50, you know what I mean? 40 between the ages of like 40 and 50. A lot of the reasons that they come up with it's never internal. It's always external. It's always the
Mhm.
white man done this and done that. And yeah, look at the white man. And not, I mean, I don't believe in like the whole comparison to the white man. I don't really, I don't subscribe to the idea of comparing myself or any, you know what I mean? Comparing our community to their community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to add before we move on. I just think we have to understand. I think individually, every black person has an accountability to hold themselves to a certain standard. But if we're talking on like societal and community levels, I think and what we're looking to get back or out of this government, what we're looking for, I think is they're two different conversations. I think individually, accountability is the most important part. I think you owe it to yourself and the black people around you to hold yourself to a higher standard than the average person. As a community, and we're talking what we need politically, I think the government and this country does owe us a lot of stuff for what we've done and what we've contributed to this country. So I think it's two different conversations that had to be had. Individually, of course, accountability is going to be most important, but as our community, we are owed certain things, and I think
Mhm.
asking for it isn't wrong.
All right. So listen, I feel like that was a good little icebreaker conversation. Listen, we clearly have it's two perspectives in here. Once we break this ice, we get into the better conversations because y'all kind of tiptoeing around shit. But I think that I think that I think that it's a balance of the two. And like I said, like the further we kind of get into it, the more we'll be able to kind of unpack just, like just the real perspectives. Where I personally think that there is a certain level of like personal accountability that does come with it. But I do think that there is a reason, whether we like whichever version that you want to say is quote unquote designed of where and why a lot of our communities are. Whether you want, again, you can go with the whole redlining and how wealth in itself, if you look at how like every 30 years, pretty much like you just go with home prices and the wealth and generational wealth and how money is passed down. It pretty much what triples inside value every 30 years. If you were not able to get a house in 1960 and get what that
Hmm.
became inside 1990, and then what that came inside 2020, again, like that's 50,000 turned into, I don't know what, 500, 600,000.
650,000, yeah.
Shit, if you over on Betty's Ford, you might be flipping that shit towards a lot more right now because
Hmm.
gentrification coming. But yeah, like I said, it's interesting space. I think that this kind of leads us to the next conversation. I got two memes. Again, this is the To Be Fair show, so we're gonna have a little fun. We're gonna react a little bit. This one for Johnny. I
Look,
know that
hold on,
these.
before
Go ahead, Real. What you got?
give me just 2 seconds. Like to me, I think that the biggest things that we have to like, if there's like, to me, the victim, the part of where you can kind of be the victim is going to be the crack epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the benefit system that the Democrats introduced. So you look at the crack epidemic and how that affect the Black community, and then look at the benefits where you know what I mean, the what is SNAP and all of those things. Those are the two things where I feel like I don't think we have to go so far back as to slavery to see, like, you know what I mean? It's more systematic at this point, where it's like you can see like more in current time, well, I would guess in more recent times, the things that actually push the black community backward.
Yeah, I just want to say there is a need to recognize. Okay, so how I want to explain this. Me and Q was talking about this the other day, where I was talking about the days, and what I was saying was basically like the actual people who we need to be addressing that are actually responsible for the issues that cause systematic racism, because that is a real thing that we need to address. But we're addressing it with the wrong people. We're trying to address it with the everyday white people that surround us, and it's not them. Every time the people who we actually need to address, we always refer to them as the days, and we don't say anything to them. And the power that Black people actually have is we are people of influence. We literally can influence the whole world. So if we was actually leading the charge, speaking to the people who we need to be speaking to, then we would have people behind us. But that's where we mess up at. We're not leading the charge for what we should really be leading the charge to. We're trying to address it with the people who should actually be our allies.
I dig it. Hey, we're gonna kind of move the conversation forward a little bit. React to two memes, get right back to the conversation. Like I said, Johnny, this one for you. I feel like you'll love this one.
Slavery. San Francisco, they're looking to pay reparations for Black people. Should Americans pay for reparations?
Why is it just for Black people?
I think it's to right the wrongs of like previous injustices such as slavery.
Is it a trial or a study?
No, I think it's just like a bill that's being proposed.
Oh, okay. There's other things in the world and in San Francisco that need to be addressed.
Do you think reparations would de-incentivize personal responsibility and hard work, or would it have positive effects?
I don't think it would have positive effects. Okay, is it okay if I touch him? Yeah. Okay, cool.
I don't know what the hell that is. I got one more. Again, this will kind of piggyback us into this conversation. Again, devil's advocate, shaking the pot. Here we go.
Some people that were talking about reparations in this country. They wanted reparations. And I remember I made this particular people so angry at me because I told them right to their face, nobody owes you anything for slavery. If you want to tell the truth about it, it is you who owes. It's you who owes. Why do you owe? Because somebody in those fields took stripes for you. Somebody, after those fields were ended and slavery was ended, somebody had to walk through Jim Crow for you. Somebody fought wars and died for you.
We did too.
Somebody lived less than because
I saw this right here.
And they did it for you.
Y'all still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are people in their graves right now, and they are there because they were willing to stand up and fight for you. Those folks on the Edmund Pettus Bridge carrying American flags, take that, Colin Kaepernick, living in a society that he could scarcely acknowledge, something that he has never known, living with a bigotry that none of us can imagine. Carried American flags on that bridge. And when they were hit upside the head with nightsticks and shot with water hoses and knocked to the ground, they got up and picked those flags up and kept marching. And they did it for you. Nobody owes you anything. If anybody owes, it's you. Because you've been the benefactor of freedom. You are the one that owes.
Unelected Supreme Court.
All right,
Yeah, that.
This nigga.
I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes black folks get on stage for the. All right, listen.
Yeah, we got a cool.
Don't mind my commentary.
The
Black,
funny thing
you're the guest here right
Okay.
now. I like to throw to you first.
Yeah. All right. So first, let me speak on the Asian woman.
Okay.
So I don't know how many y'all travel or you've been to San Francisco. It's funny that she's Asian in San Francisco because they have one of the largest Chinese populations in America, and you know it came. I would say the late 1800s, early 1900s, they start shipping the Chinese over here to build railroads and using them for cheap labor. They were another form of slavery before black, because they didn't really have a big black population out there yet. So they used the Chinese, and it's funny because just in 2022, they were demanding reparations. So I wonder if he asked her, do Chinese deserve reparations? Would she have that same sentiment? But I just found that funny because, you know, they was treated like dogs. They were, but eventually, like I was speaking about earlier, they have a country behind them. So it was only on that Americans.
Court judges are trying to remove Biden from.
It was only so long that Americans could treat them like that because China started threatening trade embargoes. They started threatening a lot of things that could affect the American economy. And eventually they started to accept them as equal citizens. So that was just funny. You know, she got a little, and then, you know, a lot of them, they start to assimilate and try to get close to whiteness by hating us too, because they don't want to be associated with black people. But that was crazy. She don't know what she's talking about. And then the black man on the stage, like nigga, what are we supposed to retroactive reparations our past? We are owed our freedom due to our ancestors. We stand on their back, but it's bigger than pain that they endure. People had land, people had inventions, people had Black Wall Street, businesses that were burnt down, patents that were stolen. So there's all type of forms of reparations that we are currently owed to this day that could help boost us in this economy, give us a equal footing in fighting like all the other demographics that come to this country. Even with the Mexicans, you look in New York and they get immigrants and pay cards and different things. So I don't understand black people like him. I guess that's his political narrative he's spinning. I'm assuming he's a Republican, and
he's from North Carolina too. North Carolina Republican.
We all know niggas like him that feel like nobody owes us nothing and all of that stuff, and partially that there's small truth to it, but not the way he's spinning it. It's like, bro, we've had it's a whole a lot of inequity that we've been experienced. That why we are the bottom of the totem pole still in this country. It's why Latino Americans can immigrate here and can start being on the same economic playground as us. It's like everybody winning, but us. We just in this stupor, led by entertainment and shit being hidden. But nah, niggas is owed something, whether it's free education, whether it's free travel grants, whether it's free
taxes.
We're owed something because of the stuff that they went through, because they worked for free for years, because they didn't get their land. And when they was getting their land, they killed Abraham Lincoln. Andrew Johnson came in, reversed that shit, stopped that real quick, because they were starting to give out land. People don't talk about that. But that's
1877. I got a question.
Well, first, Johnny, before you go, I like to know what you felt about that first meeting.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. My computer was my Wi-Fi was going in and out, but so I didn't hear everything.
You got an iPhone.
I did. I'm on a MacBook. So,
same difference.
Same difference.
But that's a good one.
I think to sum it up, the Asian lady said that she doesn't believe black people deserve reparations, and maybe that it will stop them from being responsible. I had to play it again.
And she
Well,
said she thinks it'll be a negative thing.
Yeah,
well, I
negative.
mean,
Keep them
well,
from
I don't know where that
self-accountability and
lady.
responsibility.
I don't know where that lady's from, but
San Francisco.
I mean, what nationality or ethnicity she would claim, but
We're gonna pretend that she's Chinese just for you.
or it could be Korean, Vietnamese. Black people then went and fought in a lot of wars to help a lot of people had a freedom. We fought in World War II, we fought in Korean War, we fought in the Vietnam War. We done fought a lot of wars to help a lot of these people who come over here and want to say something about us. So maybe we should opt out of that. Maybe we should.
I don't know if the Vietnam War was fighting for their freedom.
Yeah.
There's
hey,
something
Black, just
Korean.
let you in on the inside. Johnny, it's just specific Asian countries he's not really fond of. But we do have a new panelist that just popped in. I heard he was last week. He was trying to serve I don't know white people. I don't know what was happening.
Bro came out here ready to hunt last week.
Yeah,
soon as he tapped in,
That man had a bad day at work and came and took it out on Patrick.
Trey, you hopping in. I'm gonna spin the question a little bit for you. Reparations, are they deserved to all black people or for American descendants of slavery?
That's the alley-oop.
It's straight up. Hey, what's up, fellas? Peace and scam Africanism to everybody. But if that answers the question, I think that the first step in getting reparations is to make sure that we delineate and everything to tie together everything you said before. I love how social media is making us aware, because black people have this thing where we like want to be friends with everybody, and what happened to us, you want to downplay it, like talk about like, is it really serious? Other people say never forget. They never let you forget it, but we're asking questions like, is slavery relevant? So I think seeing the Asian lady, how they feel about us, seeing how a lot of Africans kind of feel about us, and then seeing how we've done so much for these other people, I think it's very much so time for us to focus, like rally around our specific ethnic lineage, which isn't as African as a lot of people may make you want to think it is. So no, they should not get reparations. As a matter of fact, I think they owe reparations, especially some of those kingdoms over there.
Oh, you said that's about the TV? Is that what you're saying?
You said, do I think Africa owes reparations?
Yeah, black folk.
Yes, I think that those kingdoms there that are rich from the slave trade, a lot of them are still in government. Maybe not like every African citizen, but there are families there that are rich, and they're actually exporting the people in Africa over there too. So I think we give them a big pass by like trying to make friends with them. In reality, slavery never would have happened.
This gonna be good. This gonna be good.
Oh no, is there? Trey, you just do a great alley oop. A Black.
Hold on, just a second. Somebody's TV or something is playing in the background.
Yeah,
it's probably Johnny. I don't know. But yeah, it definitely is Johnny, Real, Trey. I don't know. A Black. I don't know if your TV on either.
But something's playing in the background. Make sure ain't no videos playing on the computer.
Or you don't have the the stream up on your phone if you're not on your phone. But A Black, Rail, this actually throws to like a really interesting space where I think that both of y'all have really close contact with current continental African people, or or directly away from that. I mean, like one generation away from continental African people.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts? Do you think Africans owe us slavery? And then we'll get back to the regular question. But I'll toss that in there.
Do Africans owe us reparations?
That's what I meant to say. Reparations. My bad.
Well, oh man, that's a complicated one because it's like.
My fault. Can I only make it more direct? I don't want to say Africans. I'm talking about like the Dahomey tribe. If you look up tribes that participated in the slave trade, there are several specific lines that are still wealthy from that. So I don't want to like go and shake them for their UN rights and all like that. But like these governments that have all these, riches, I think that, those are the people that I'm talking about. Just want to make sure, not just like every day, Star Marvel. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm bad. I'm tripping. My bad. I mean, I just got a lot. I'm just really upset because I've seen a lot of them talk down about reparations movement. So I think that's what's kind of got me mad, because I was very much so big on the Pan-Africanism thing. When I see a lot of people speaking out against them, and they're like Candace Owens, who's Caribbean, and then
it begs a different question. But pause there. I want to hear this response, and then I think where you're at is going to lead to another question.
So that is a dope question. I haven't researched it heavily. I do know there's the African Union, and there's a group called CARICOM, and certain groups have and are pushing to give reparations to people that can link their lineage to that slave trade, and also to the Caribbean as well. So I couldn't speak too deeply because I would want to definitely research that more, because I wouldn't want to lambast them, and they actually are actively trying to repent right now. But also, as far as, because people bring up Africans traded us, and there's definitely some truth to them going inland, trading rival tribes, but the level of slavery that we faced once we got here, many were not aware what they were involved in, and white people was white people in getting with the tribal chiefs, like they're doing right now with the presidents, trading different resources. We give you guns, we give you rum, we give you different new things that you don't have, and all you gotta do is bring us your enemies. And they like, well, shit, we fight them niggas anyway. Bet, let's do it. But it wasn't until they were getting across seas, and some escaped, some kind of came back, and they was telling them like, yo, these crackers is on some other shit. Like, this is not like having a prisoner of war. They're dehumanizing.
Yes, and hey, I just want to jump in really, really quickly where you're at to kind of to co-sign up a perspective that was given to me recently that I was like, that is interesting, and it makes sense of that. Like, sometimes we forget that Africa is a continent, not a country. Yeah. And right now, we look at Africa almost inside a very Pan-African way, where we almost look at there's no borders, it's just black folk. Where, to an extent, Africa was very much like how in Europe, they were warring inter-ethnically. Y'all know what word I'm trying to say. Yeah. And that is a perspective to think about, where they didn't see themselves as selling literally you as the black person. It was that other country over there.
They were selling.
I wanted to integrate into it. Yeah.
Specifically, they were selling the type of people.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's but before we,
it's another rabbit hole. I don't know if y'all want to go down that one, but yeah, go ahead, Johnny.
I'm not gonna touch on that. I just in the course of this, if we talking about Africa, and like you say, it's not a monolith. There's different countries, and along that political spectrum, there's different ideologies and different leanings also. So not all of Africa is the ones that we're mad at, like A Black was explaining. There's a lot of them that are trying to kind of repair and build the bridge back. There's certain places in Africa that are way more welcoming towards Black Americans than in other places. So and there's places that are way more complicit in colonialism than in other places, and white supremacy than other places. So we have to keep that in context when we're having these discussions. So
yeah. A Black, I did interrupt you. I want you to finish off your thought.
But just to close it out, most of us came from the West African part during the slave trade. So you have countries who, like Ghana, who have had the year of return, who are offering free and dual citizenship, who are doing certain things to reconnect with us, as far as which tribes and which families are still benefiting. I would definitely want to go into that more before I get into that conversation. But it's only so much blame essentially that I'm going to put on them when the bulk of our slavery experience was spent here, and our dehumanization process did happen here. So that might be some of the universal karma Africans face as far as their own colonialism and their own things that they're dealing with, is being a part of that. And I think we got this utopia like mindset of all Africa, they shouldn't have been fighting beforehand and stuff. But like I say, they're different people, they're different religions, they're different cultures, and they had no idea, what was about to co-inspire once we got to, America. Like, and like I say, they are historical evidence of different chiefs and different people once they find out, in the relationships with these people, because how white people are. They was selling it to them. It was like they was making it seem like it wasn't as bad as it was, because there's no way for them to know the extent of what we experience and still participate. But then at the same time, greed corrupts, money corrupts. So you are getting this influx of whatever resource, that corrupts people, and we see that happening in these major countries where we got these presidents, who are making these connections with China, with Russia. Why is all the cobalt coming out of Congo? People get slaughtered, and all our cell phones got this resource, but people are not. So we see it. The presidents are still being corrupted in the same similar way. It's like we still experience effects of slavery here. They still are experiencing effects of colonialism there, and they still, just like they corrupted their tribal chiefs, they corrupted their presidents with greed, with money, with power. So I mean, like, it's a spiritual thing that the whole diaspora is facing.
That's the word I was looking for, diaspora.
They're tricky, man. They know what they doing. They play psychological warfare, and niggas love gifts. They love gold. They love power.
Niggas love it's
nigga trinkets.
Yes. All right. So first, housekeeping would be everybody that is tapped in. We do have a live call in spot on the if you're on the YouTube, if you're on the Facebook, call in. We'll love to kind of hear your conversation. If not, put it in the chat.
And I will say this.
Okay.
I don't know if she'll call in, but my girlfriend is in Nairobi right now. She's been listening the whole time, making faces in her head.
Hey, listen, I'm interested in the perspective. Real got off. So I kind of want to save the question that I had, but I did kind of want to. Nonetheless, I'll throw the question out. We can move away from it. But I do often hear, and you and Rail were kind of inside like a really interesting space where like his wife is Ethiopian, and you're like your lady, she is can you use that? In which you often hear about kind of how Africans, like continental Africans, are how they look down on Black people. And I just wanted to hear some firsthand experience. Did you agree, disagree? Oh, well, shit, you a well-traveled man as well. We ain't got to like specifically put it to just that space. But yeah, what's your experience with that, real quick?
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Hey, Black, that was pointed towards you.
Oh, again.
You locked in. No,
no, I was trying to get her to join.
Oh, get her the link. Okay, gotcha. No, I said oftentimes we hear that continental Black people, Africans, look down on Black people. Again, you're well traveled. Is that something that you've seen, heard, have experienced? What's your thoughts? Just real quick.
Nah, I mean, of course there are exceptions in everything, but I mean, I've only been to 4 African countries, and the most I get is admiration. They look up to us. They look up to our civil rights movement, which has inspired a lot of their revolutions out there. Hip hop has influenced them. Like, you see our culture transition and translating over there from our language, our jargon, how they're dressed. So for the most part, there's an admiration, because when they see us, they see freedom. It's that whole grass is greener type thing. I look over there and I see freedom and stuff, and I want to live there, and they are doing the same thing. So ignorance is everywhere. So just like we got Americans here that think they all live in trees and hunt with spears, you got Africans there that might think that we all rich like Rick Ross, or they might think that we all are whitewashing the mind. But for the most part, they way more woke than we think. You know, they are super
Okay.
intelligent.
I often hear like the whole like the lazy and I don't know, like just like these very stereotypical things. Real pop back in.
Straight no.
Did you hear my question?
Yeah, I heard it.
What's your
For
thoughts?
from my experience, I can say up front there was a especially in the way I presented myself, there was definitely the you know what I mean, the stereotypes. But one thing that what I also would say is that once I guess went about like asking for marriage and presenting the way in which was respectful to their culture, it was different. Like it completely changed everything. So like going to her father and asking for her hand in marriages, and we had to sit in marriage and sitting down and talking to her mom. They have like a T, and you said Ethiopian. She's Eritrean.
Oh yeah, my
but
bad.
Pretty much,
Eritrean.
it's
Eritrean,
close.
yeah.
It's close. It's close. Same. It's pretty close to the same thing. But
But
yeah,
they don't
like
like
once
each other so much.
once I had the respect to actually engage into how to say engage in what I mean, in the way that their culture does certain things, like there was a respect. But before that, like what I mean, they didn't just want
Do they
their
have a
daughter to be.
viewpoint on just black culture in general?
I can't answer that specifically.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I never just sat and was like, oh, how do you feel about black people? I ain't never asked them that, but I can tell you that like
Next Thanksgiving.
the idea wasn't for her to marry a black guy right off top. Like that wasn't the initial idea for
And
sure.
why was that?
I would assume it's because of the way that we're portrayed. You know what I mean? The way that we're portrayed and their experience with black guys, with black guys.
Okay.
So it wasn't like it wasn't super inviting and just being honest, it wasn't super inviting until like they seen like what I mean, that I look this way, but then what I mean, I'm able to I'm just not, what I mean, they buy, I believe they buy into the propaganda as well. And so they, what I mean, naturally they feel a way initially until you have to see the human for the human and they accept it.
Gotcha.
Hey, Real, can I ask just one? I don't want to get too far off base, but I just got one question for Real, and it's in regards to the relationship. I've never asked this, but I think it'd be a fire question for right now. You said you was willing to like bend to like their culture a little bit. As far as like our culture, was there any pushback from them about some of the certain things that black people like the way our culture goes, or was it just kind of a unison?
It was really just honestly, it was really just the propaganda stuff. Like, you know what I mean? The way, almost like I would say, like the way that the white man or whatever, however they think of us initially, you know what I mean? You have to kind of, or at least I had to build the relationship so they seen who I was.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, like, is that country? Is it majority Christian, Muslim? Is there like, or?
Oh yeah. So I don't know majority, but I know that they're like a very like Christian peoples.
Okay.
Yeah, like
that's kind of what I was getting at.
Shit. I was about to throw the Tone, but Tone looked like he done disappeared on us. Tone, you there? All right. So I'm gonna throw this to Trey. Is reparations in 2024 actually feasible? And if so, would that look like? Would that end up being another system of control, like welfare, if there was to actually give us some version of reparations?
I got word. To answer that question, I don't think they didn't think this getting off the plantation was feasible, and they didn't think getting the right to vote. They never thought anything was feasible. And when you look at the polls and everything things were on the ballot, they were never popular. Nothing good for black people is ever popular, and it's never going to be. So I think the more we think about it as the popular, not the long as it's going to take for us to get there. It's just like if it's old and it's the right thing to do and it's the just thing to do.
But
I
not
think,
popular. Do you think that it's feasible? Do you think that they'll ever actually pass reparations?
yeah, I think either they're going to pass or there's going to be like there's going to be consequences. Like they can't continue to maintain a police state and then not give us what we're owed and then cause us to be in a state of poverty, then blame us for poverty crimes. Because either way, they're going to have to pay the reparations one way or another. Like,
so what does consequences look like?
Like, for instance, the Democratic Party, like they're hemorrhaging black male votes. Once they lose their base and then they continue to ignore us and prioritize other groups, there's more black people than ever that are not going to vote for them.
Right, but isn't that just black people moving to a different plantation?
I think people are also just choosing not to vote and just rejecting the process, because also nothing we've ever really achieved was really through the ballot anyway. Like even getting off the plantation, even Jim Crow, a lot of this stuff was done, through grassroots.
The ability to move plantations is still more power than we had back in the day. Like if you can pick what side you want to be on, they still give you more power than somebody that's stuck on one plantation. Because if you can choose, each plantation got to treat you better.
Right, and the people leaving the Democratic Party aren't really necessarily going to the Republican side either. And if they're voting for Trump, it's just for specific things. It's not like because they were the same reason they voted for Democrat, which was just because Big Mama, what I'm saying? Like you go to family reunion, you get shamed. Like it was an emotional thing. So I think that's slowly people are waking up, and as that continues to go, reparations will be more realistic. And if it doesn't become realistic, then they're going to cut their nose off to spite their face. So, I mean, one way or another.
A Black, what you think? Is reparations 2024? Is that actually feasible? Or is that a political tool that every 4 years we tend to start hearing like small little momentum, but like the other 3 years it kind of dies down. I mean, I guess unless it's California.
Definitely for sure. We know we got the money. We've seen what they sent out to Ukraine, what they've been sending out to all these other countries. So we know the money is there. I think having a real plan on how things will be dispersed, how much people will get. I think now we live in a time with DNA. So it's not no more of this, well, we don't know who was slaves and we don't know who gets what. Like now with DNA, you can trace damn near everybody back to somewhere that can verify, all right, you're a descendant of slavery. That's step one. And then it's like, it should be certain tiers to what you get, based on, your status in life and also what you want. They're going to be limits. If you're a felon, of course, you might not be able to get the big check, but you might be able to get free education. There might be free health care. Maybe you qualify just for the check. So it has to be like broken down logically. It has to be transformative. It can't be like a one-time thing, like a stimulus check type thing, and niggas is out here buying scat packs and Gucci bags, and then we broke for 5 years. It has to be things that are going to change. Like I believe, like free education, vouchers for all who want to go to college, for your kids or something. Free health care.
Hey, Black. So I think that you're kind of at a spot where it'll lend me to kind of go to a different meme. I'm push play and then we'll pick back up the conversation.
Okay, yeah, get it.
California reparations.
The Chinese first.
So California reparations, $1.2 million per black resident. Estimates project that it could owe $800 billion or more, which is roughly 2.5x its annual budget. The panel's recommendation breaks down payments by types of historical discrimination. For instance, black residents affected by redlining by banks, compensation for over-policing and mass incarceration between the periods of 1970 and 2020. There's a bunch of other forms of discrimination, and each theoretically, if you're a 71-year-old black resident of California and lived there your entire life, you could get a max payout of $1.2 million. It's important to note that the panel's votes only included recommendations for the state legislature, and as of right now, it doesn't actually hold any legal weight.
Thoughts?
I'll say this. I think the thought of like just cutting a check for reparations, I don't know if that's going to be like the most effective way to get it. But I think if you talk about like free education, free healthcare, not paying taxes, being able to start business and get vouchers for small businesses, I think if we look at like benefits, if you look at land grants that were given out way before to go and start farming, I think it has to be done that way, because that way it's a little easier to push for that. And that's something that's more generational. That's something that can be, pushed down and, given to, your kids if you're talking land and stuff like that. So I feel like for me personally, that's what I'd want to focus on rather than just a $1 million
Cash
check.
payout.
Yeah.
Everybody's reparations came in the form of cash. So if we don't demand that, that means that we won't get it and we don't deserve it, because that means we're spineless and don't have a backbone, because everybody gets it in cash. They don't care about how they spend it. Matter of fact, if they knew that we were going to spend it like that, they would automatically go ahead and give it to us because it was coming back. The reason they won't give us the cash is because they know we're going to lift ourselves up. Yes, some people are going to blow it, but I'm not going to blow it. Are y'all going to blow it? So we can't wait till the lowest common denominator knows how to spend their money before we demand what we're owed. They took wealth in the form of cash and valuables. We can't ask them back to get education. How's education going to help an older lady who can't afford to pay her rent because of what she dealt with? Like with cash, we can get whatever we need to do, and then they'll control it if it's not in the form of cash.
And that's why I was saying that it should be in a form of tiers, and like it shouldn't be just one type of reparation. There should be checks for certain people, but
no other groups do that though.
But no other group experience what we experience. Like nobody.
So we should get more.
No, that's why I'm saying it should be checks. There also should be free education. We're only a small population of this country. There should be free education, free health care for us. There should be housing vouchers where you can go anywhere in this country. Certain states will open up for you to get a down payment, interest-free down payments, and then there should be a cut blank check, as well. But the check shouldn't be it. That's why I'm asking for more. Like money is not enough. Money is not going
to. So Tone, I want to throw to you. Haven't heard your perspective on the reparations thing. Do you think that Black people deserve reparations? And I'll switch it up a little bit for you. And what do you say to the others that say it's just Black people looking for a handout?
Really, what I was going to say in the first place,
it could be anything.
What I was going to say in the first place was what we deserve and what we'll actually see.
Okay,
I don't know if those two things are the same. Yeah, what we deserve, we definitely deserve it.
Okay.
But and one thing I will say also is like that that meme you showed with the Asian lady. One of the sentiments I kind of agree with her on, and Chappelle kind of played this off. He played this out in his skits too. Like, I don't know if it actually would be a good thing in our community for a whole bunch of us to just for everybody to just have money. I don't know how that would be. Like, I think it would look like a lot like the Chappelle skit back in the day that he had on the show when everybody got reparations. I think it'll look a lot like that. Like, I don't know if we would actually do the right thing, but that's not for anybody else to determine. So yeah, we do have the right. But on a perspective where I'm looking at what's going on in our actual country, the country that we're asking for this from, our deficit right now is like, look at it. Like we just been blowing money over the past 4 years. So it's like any chance of reparations that we really wanted, it's been blown. It's going to the migrants.
Or Ukraine or Israel.
So do you think that reparations would handicap Black people?
I don't think it would handicap us. I think it would definitely be a leg up, because it's like when you at the bottom, you ain't got nowhere to go but up.
Okay, I mean, so I guess
look at a small sample size. It's not even close to what reparations would be. But if you look at PPP loans, that whole stimulus era, there are exceptions of people who started businesses, who bought homes. But for the most part, niggas is doing nigga shit. If I'm
Y'all sound like suspected white supremacists, bro. I ain't gonna lie, man. That's all these are crazy talk. We're not gonna get reparations if this is if this is our spokes congregation. No, we're not getting it. We don't because we're just gonna blow. We're just some dumb Negroes. You give us some money, we're just gonna go buy Cadillacs.
Hey, hold on. Both of y'all talking at the same time. Wait, it's
my bad. Now listen, we all are some intellectuals here. If I'm talking about the masses of black people, financial literacy is defunct. And I feel like if you're going to give out these type of things, just giving money is cool, but also giving the financial literacy that comes with it, teaching them how to invest, teaching them how to grow the wealth so that we're not broke again in 5 years. And then once that happens, they don't owe us shit. We done gave y'all niggas reparations. We don't want to hear no more complaining. We don't want to hear about slavery no more. We taking that out the books. We gave y'all shit. Y'all blew it. That's on y'all. But nah, you have to give financial infrastructure. You gotta teach them the same shit the crackers know, how to move their money.
They don't all know that.
They don't.
Hey, hold on. As y'all continue to go back and forth, I'm not about to break y'all up. Hey, Black, real quick.
I've been waiting on this one.
I'm not. Like we're now about to get into like the better part of the conversation. I will say one quick thing. Obviously, we're just trying to discuss ideas. Let's try and refrain from ad hominems, any personal attacks. Like, let's attack ideas. Listen, it's still fun, so we're gonna talk shit. Let's leave
it sounds like they're talking points. Not that y'all are right now. I said those are.
Oh no! Again, well, listen. All I'm saying, like, so all I want to do is make sure that we attack talking points. Then, because if it's a bad idea, let's just let's just talk about how bad the idea is. Y'all feel me? All right, y'all niggas keep going. Or y'all black people, keep going.
No, I'm cool with that word too.
I don't totally disagree with what he's saying, but I think you speaking from a point of you thinking that everybody's thinking like you, which when I'm in these streets, I know how the average, I'm gonna say nigga, because there are niggas and there are black men. I know how
they mean that in no good way.
You give them, it's not a good or bad way. It's an ideological way of like what you're going to do with a large lump sum of money once you get it. Are you going to go to South Park Mall, or are you going to buy CDs, and are you going to create businesses that grow wealth for future generations? Like he said, not all white people do it. Nah, you're right. There's white trash, but there are also 70% of this population, so they can afford to have those people to do that. We are under 13%, and a lot of us in that 13% are whitewashing their mind, are going to give that money, back to Europeans, back to European companies, not anything to make us a formidable society like the Chinese ladies, the Chinese people, like the Arabs, the stores, like all of them. We haven't shown in no point of history when we receive lump sums of money that we're going to put that back into our community, which is why I believe that it's not only wealth of getting the money, the wealth is getting the knowledge on what to do with the money and having that financial literacy and teaching people like what would you do with these reparations if you get it? Like it's not helping us if we all just be jeweled out and flexed out. I know everybody won't do that, but we're talking about the masses here. And the masses live in our hoods. They live in our low-income communities. Yes, they do.
They do.
Raise your hand.
They don't care.
Trey, go ahead.
They don't care about elevating because, like, they haven't been.
Hey, Black, let him respond real quick. I guess I'll also say this. We're gonna try and keep I want y'all to continue going back and forth. And I think
my bad.
We're about to get into like a really good space for conversation. Let's try and keep it close enough to 1 minute each, just so each person kind of we can have a full back and forth and we don't miss multiple points.
Well, just a quick response. No other group has to have finance. They didn't ask the victims of the Holocaust about their financial literacy, the Native Americans, Japanese, nobody else. So we have this crazy standard. Also, no other group, they don't look at a school shooter and be like, this was wrong with the culture. They don't do that with the cartel. They don't do that with any of the crazy stuff you see that goes on in Africa with with the child soldiers and the genital mutilation. I mean, it's a lot of crazy things that they do over there that we don't do as foundational Black Americans. So to keep the reparations conversation very simple, it needs to be cash payments for descendants of that people that can trace their lineage in America back to 1860. And it needs to be cash payments. If you want to buy financial literacy, enough of us have financial literacy to where we've done a lot with a little. So imagine those people if they have more. Yes, some people will blow it, but just because somebody else is going to blow their money doesn't mean I don't deserve what's owed. And we don't need to wait to figure all that out. Keep it simple. We are owed the cash and needs to be paid to descendants because other people got it. They even gave this plantation owners reparations. So,
now, hey, Trey, can I ask you this? Do you think that's like just best? Like if we're talking about for Black people, 20 years from now, do you think that's the best form, or just a strictly cash payment versus like you could get some cash, maybe not as big if it's just solely a cash payment, but we're talking land grants, and if we're talking free education, do you not think that may be able to bear better
they can
fruit
add
for
that
us in the long run?
They can add that too, but I think if we get something like 10 to 15 trillion dollars that we're owed, we start getting payments towards that, then we'll be fine. Because everyone was undergirded. Like our underclass was never undergirded with a foundation, like a financial foundation like other people have, like Native Americans had, like white people got when they gave them all the land here, like Jewish people get when they came over here. Like everyone had something. We had everything strict that we're owed. So we need to get paid back what we're owed and to move forward.
And like
I want to throw the Tone and then A Black.
Okay, just looking at the landscape of what we're actually dealing with in our country right now, though, if they was to say give out reparations in a $1 trillion form in the way that you just said, say this next election, what would that actually look like for our country? Like it's kind of a thing like they're gonna give us the reparations right when the money has no more value. Like we're gonna switch currency. That's kind of how I see that. Like I don't think it's an actual realistic thing to expect cash.
They could just give us some money that they gave $10 million worth of free housing to immigrants like this past year.
That's our money right there. That's the money we're supposed to be getting.
Right. So
that's gone. So now what it becomes a thing of is where are we at with that landscape going on? Where does that leave us?
Just redirect it. You know, if they can spend it this year, then spend it next year. And if it didn't break us this year, then it won't break us next year. And if it does break us, at least we'll have some. Hopefully, we'll spend the money on land and
spend it on that underground bunker
and power tools for self-defense and all that.
Hopefully,
A Black, go ahead.
I say this because, like I said, I don't totally disagree with you, but I also feel like you are underestimating the psychological damage of Black people that you're comparing these other groups to. Like, what other group is taught and has been taught to hate themselves on the level of Black people for the period of time that they have, to the point that they will receive something like this and do the logical things what you're saying that they would do? Like, mention Jews, and the Jews are the richest, one of the richest group, if not the richest minority groups in our country. And that didn't just come just from getting reparations. They were also taught and had been taught even before that how to manage money. Like, so now, and they also have a sense of pride in their community.
And they got sovereignty.
They have.
So why don't y'all y'all wouldn't blow the money. So why don't y'all speak for like people like you rather than speak for the people that they put on TV all the time in the white controlled media?
Because I know we are
We're speaking for more than just us. As a leader, you can't just speak from your perspective.
But then when you get the money, invest in the community, bro, and then we'll be fine. As long as there's enough people that do that, then I don't need to wait for every person in the streets to become financially literate.
So let me ask you how you invest in the community.
Because that's a good point. That's a good. But what do you think is?
Well, hold on. I think Tone had a really interesting question. Go ahead, Tone.
How do you invest in the community?
Build infrastructure.
So who do you pay to build that infrastructure?
You said, who do I what?
Who do you pay to build that infrastructure?
We have lots of people who are, educated. We have engineers, people in all the fields, everything. We invented half the stuff in America in bondage. So we have money to put behind our ingenuity. I feel like I have a lot more faith in our people than it's kind of discouraging to see like how Like, y'all
It's
really
not that
think
I don't
that
have faith in my people. It's that there's a reality of what's going on here. I would love for things to be like the hunky dory way. Like idealistically, what you're talking about, I would love for it to be that way. But the reality of what is actually out here and what is going on is that's not the landscape. Basically, what I was trying to get to is even if you spend the money in the way that you're talking about, you're still going to end up spending the money with the same people you're talking about you don't want to spend the money with. Because in order to build any of that stuff, you got to get approvals and licensing. You got to get it's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that. You got to buy the land. You got different approvals that got to go through, and it's still people like those. That's where the issue is at.
Hey, Trey,
you get what I'm saying?
team up with other nations.
Trey,
United
before you
States does that too.
respond, I think that we're kind of at a space where it's almost appropriate to move it on. We've gotten into the economic space, which this kind of transitions us from maybe like the liberal perspective when we get into like the empathy and reparations to the more conservative perspective of Black people accountability and the quote unquote, let's pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Before I guess we dive into that conversation, because again, the bootstrap conversation is based off of like somewhat of an economic conversation. I got a meme that I think is that's appropriate. I'm gonna push play and then we'll get to it.
I got a question for Trey.
Uh-oh.
I just learned the other day that the term pick yourself up by your bootstraps was never intended to be used the way we use it today. When they originally coined this expression, it was meant to illustrate somebody pointlessly trying to do something on their own that requires help. Some of the visuals they used back in the day was someone grabbing their own boots and lifting themselves over a fence, or someone grabbing their boots and pulling themselves out of a bog. It was supposed to illustrate how futile it is for us to try and do something alone that requires the help of others. And I think it's kind of a sad commentary on how we sometimes change language to facilitate exploitation, basically. Meaning that so many of us need help, and expressions like lift yourself up by your bootstraps have erroneously taught us that we should figure it out ourselves, and that it's not reasonable for us to ask for help when we need it. So just know, if you ever hear yourself saying, I need to pick myself up by my bootstraps, or someone says it to you, know that that was never how the term was designed. In fact, it was designed to mean, don't be ridiculous. You can't do this yourself. Everybody needs help from time to time. Give yourself a little break.
Look at how much oil.
All right. So I guess I'll pose the question first. Well, no, I guess I'll start with just this general question. How do y'all stand on the whole concept of pulling yourself up by the bootstrap? We can kind of just go around the horn real quick. Let's try and keep it like, within like 30 seconds to a minute, and then I ask a more engaging question.
With what that guy just said, that was a whole different thing than how I've heard it before. So I'll just go with the typical way that we hear it. That's kind of a fallacy. That's just another way of not acknowledging what we like. If we're specifically talking about Black people, that's another way of not acknowledging what we have experienced. And like I said, I do think it is important to a degree that they do acknowledge that what we have experienced.
Yeah, I agree with him, and even with the guy from the meme. It's a BS concept that mainly kind of pushed on us. Every other group, even white people, have had different help to move them ahead. That we spoke about earlier, whether it's land grants or low interest rates or just general favoritism for being white. Our immigrants who come in and getting pay cards in New York, like that's new. But yeah, every group has had some type of help. So it's mainly kind of pushed at Black people, at least from what I've heard throughout history, as in a way of like, do it yourself. And because there have been exceptions of people who have done it themselves, they kind of like to focus on them as like, well, they've done it, you know, so you can do it too. And kind of the same way they do with celebrity culture as well. The few exceptions, they kind of make the rule of like, well, this person made it, this person became president, this person became mayor, this person became Jay-Z. Why can't the rest of y'all niggas, you know, pull yourself up? So, but I think we all know, at least I speak for myself, that it's kind of BS, you know.
Got you, Trey.
I would say not only to piggyback off what you said, with everyone getting a hand, like somebody to help them lift themselves up by their bootstrap, whatever. They use us to do that, like specifically Black people, whether it be Asians in the Black neighborhoods, whether it be like the slave labor that used to build the country for all the other immigrants to come. Like, not only did we not get help with our bootstraps, we enabled everyone else to be able to get theirs. And also beware of the friendly white guy who talks about all the things that we went through, but then when you want to talk about what to do about it, is crickets, or they still want to be comfortable, but it's like good cop, bad cop. So I feel it, but and also sometimes it's crazy how we see a lot of people that are kind of like not anti-Black, but it's kind of like skeptical or not. They think they're like the what about black on black crime people. If you show them a picture of a white guy saying the exact things that like a potential Black nationalist might say, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. So it's like, I don't know. Those are my first three thoughts watching that video.
They become Nick Fuentes. What you say, Johnny?
I mean, and this is where I kind of gonna push back, not push back, because y'all heard what I said earlier, but like I also said, I think there's balance, and I believe in duality. And when I hear the phrase "pull you up by your bootstraps," I don't think of the Black community as a whole, but when I think of like myself and personal accountability, that is something that I try to practice. As far as like, I try to do everything I can before I ask for help, and that's just like a personal thing that's always been taught to me. So when I hear that, personally, I can agree with it because it's how I try to, live my life. Now, y'all heard what I said about the Black community earlier. I definitely think that certain things are owed. I definitely think there needs to be acknowledgement and recognition of those things. But at the same time, I feel like I can, do everything in my power. And there's a lot of things in my power to affect my personal destiny. Even if I can't do it for the Black people, the same, I can do it for myself.
All right, so I pose the first question. Is equality of opportunity all we need?
That's equity, and I think yes.
Is that what I mean? Equity of opportunity, equality of what? All right, nonetheless, you know what I mean.
Yeah, equity, opportunity. I think it means the same thing. I would say no, that's not all we need. I think the most important thing, and this is a Bible scripture too, but our people suffer because of lack of knowledge, and I do believe that. Like, I think there's stuff we don't know that if we did know it, then there is a different way that we would move as a community. Like, I think it's the lack of knowledge across the community that keeps us from being able to unite in the way that we're able to unite, if that makes sense.
Oh my bad. I was looking up Johnny. I knew what I was talking about. It's equality opportunity. But yeah,
I was saying something different, but okay.
So equality is like each individual or each group, they get the same resources, and equity is
or access to the resources. I guess it's more so.
Yeah. And equity is more so. Yes, your circumstances determine your resources that you have access to, and so that's the difference between them. I think they're both important for us, but I think equity is the most important because equality can also be an ideological perspective. We all equal or even greater than people that oppress us, but the equity is we don't get the same school systems, or we don't get the same neighborhoods, or we don't live in the same areas that give us a life trajectory to progress like some people in certain areas. So That would be.
So I guess let me ask you this, because I guess in my mind I thought that like equity would be like more so equal representation within like a space in comparison to like equality would be just the opportunity to for everybody to be in the space. Maybe like, I guess like the quote unquote comparison would be like how you look at affirmative action or some shit like that.
Q, that's why I said that's why I said the equality of opportunities to me is equity, because it means no matter where you're from, you have equal opportunity no matter what. And that's what equity looks like, where I can come from this background where I might not come from the best neighborhood, but I have all the same opportunity as somebody who comes from a rich neighborhood. That to me, that's equity, because there's nothing holding you back. And when you say equality of opportunity, that sounds like we're talking about, equity. And I think that is important, that no matter where you come from, the same things are possible. If you come from this neighborhood, you can achieve everything the same way that.
Listen, as long as we all understand what we mean, I don't want to get into the semantic battle.
I think that's less likely than reparations, honestly. Like, as long as we're under this system, this global system of the supremacy, then the only way we're going to have any equity or equality is if we have our own. And the only way we're going to have our own is if we have the resources to get our own. Because if it's their company, why would they not give preferential treatment to their own?
But all right, so you kind of pivoted from the question. So do you think is all Black people all we need is equality of opportunity? Or whether we want to say equity and resources, however you want to kind of frame it. Like to be successful as a group in general.
Like within this present system, I don't think it's possible to have either one, is what I'm saying. But if we could have it, yeah, that'd be fine. But I don't think it's like, we're not going to, it's like a family business and we're not family.
Is that all we need though?
Is what all we need?
That's what you're saying. Like, is equality like the only thing that we need?
We probably need some healing at this point, like, because there's a lot of shit we done been through that, like we need to figure out, like, to undo some of the damage that's been done, because there is a lot of that for sure.
And I guess like if I'm playing like the devil's advocate space, and when I've heard this stated by like conservatives, it usually is speaking towards the idea that there's almost the assumption that we need more because we're not good enough. And if like, is equity of opportunity not good enough for Black people? Do we need all the extra shit? That's, I guess, more so like the thing that I'm speaking to, and I'm asking y'all to answer. If we're being like as direct as possible. Yeah, I know it don't seem like we have any hard conservatives here to kind of like really get that point across to where we can dive into like actually unpacking that. But right now, the answer that y'all are giving when it's saying nah, we kind of need more, it kind of begs that same question.
I don't think my bad. Oh, yeah, I think we need more because more was taken, and that's what all equity is like. It don't matter if you have the same. I'm giving you what you need to succeed, because you can be on equal footing and still not succeed. Like, I guess a metaphor would be like, you're in a fight, and I'm gonna give you equal weapons, the same sword to fight each other. But one person is a master swordsman, and you never swung one in your day in life. But I gave y'all the same sword, so you should be fine. But this other person has knowledge, the skill, and the years of practice to win, and that's technically what equity is. You got these resources, you got this education, you got this backing, you have all these things to succeed. So it's like equality is important, but just giving somebody the same as somebody else and not all the stuff behind it, it's not going to make them succeed. We see that with integration in school systems, sending you the kids with a school with white kids. It's still not going to make you just as successful if we still have different limitations and barriers everywhere you go. So it's like, if more things have been taken away from the group, then more things have to be given and back to them to put them on equal footing.
I'm saying white, and I'll say this: we need more. But I mean, it's unfair to say that, to act like any group didn't need more. Like white people, I shouldn't say that, but they came over here and they needed slaves to survive. They needed Indian people to teach them how to teach the land. So they could just come over here with their opportunity and just without getting help, without getting handouts. That's what Thanksgiving's about. They got handouts and stuff. So there was a lot of stuff that happened for them to even create this country that we're saying we need the help from. It's like they had a bunch of help along the way too. So yeah, of course we need more.
Gotcha.
Yeah, of course we need more. It was done.
So I guess pushing along like the idea of kind of like playing devil's advocate. So I guess I'd love to hear y'all like response to the quote unquote immigrant theory, where the idea is that all other immigrant groups have came into America and they've kind of like existed among this same kind of basic theory where it's first group comes and they become the working class. And then they value financial literacy, education, and they push their next group to take over an industry. And within that, their group becomes quote unquote, like more financially stable. They have, they're able to start, I guess like the idea would be practicing group economics, XYZ. And the issue with Black people ends up being that the value system is off, in which even though that we're a minority, we don't exercise the immigrant theory. I don't know. I'll toss it into there and
I'll go first.
Love to hear y'all answer.
Well, I think the fallacy in that is a lot of the immigrants that come. Well, for one, a lot of the immigrants that come here are the best and brightest from the other countries that they're coming from. So you're not getting the bottom tier that's coming. You're getting the best and the brightest from other countries. Secondly, most of the immigrants in this country came on Ellis Island. And a lot of the damage that we're talking about has been done to Black people happened pre-Ellis Island. So they're coming undamaged, and it's the best and brightest, where we're already have been subjected to a lot of programming, a lot of theft, a lot of being controlled. And it's all of us over here where we're competing with the best, the top 10% from these other countries that's coming over.
And the first thing they did off Ellis Island was engage in criminal activity, starting mobs and all this other stuff. So, and then on top of that, they were only brought here because after the end of the Civil War, they needed more cheap labor. And every time we started to rise up, look, a mass flood of immigrants. So I think when we want higher wages, they get more cheap labor. So it's all a deliberate, I think, attack on the foundational Black Americans that have been in this country from day one,
Okay, so something I noticed, Q, when you asked just the last two questions that you had asked, there was a difference in the questioning. So the first question you asked was regarding Black people, and when we was talking about that question, the question was in the form of asking somebody to give us something. Where when you was referring to the immigrants, it was in the terms of them coming here and building up something.
Okay.
And I think that's where the fallacy really is that we need to be discussing, because it's like, why is it always with us that we're looking at it like, hey, give us equality. If you're asking somebody to give you equality, then that means you'll never be equal to them.
We've built stuff and they've burnt it down. Plenty.
No, but I'm saying, do you understand what I'm saying though? If you're asking somebody to give you equality, if you have to ask them to give you equality, then you're not equal to them. No matter if they can give you equality, then you'll never be equal to them.
You gotta quit asking them.
Well, okay, and
Yeah, I agree.
Trey, but then what does quit asking look like?
Make actionable, like make actions towards your goal. Like right now, what we're doing is
So does that look like accountability, or does that look like I guess Tom, I'm trying to understand where you were circling the two when you was kind of comparing the two questions. I'll let y'all.
What was repeat your second question? Your second question was what?
Oh no, it was just the basic immigrant theory. And that was piggybacked off of what was the first question?
About immigrant theory about
no, that was the second question. My bad. The first question wasn't based off of handouts or anything like that. It was equality of outcome all we needed. I mean, equality of opportunity all we needed. And the answer was no, we need more. And so the piggyback to that was the immigrant theory, where it's like where there's like the theory that kind of like is based around immigrants coming in and like working class people, like they come in and they become working class people, and they use that to send their kids off and blah 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 blah. I kind of like explained that all the way. It wasn't necessarily to pit each one. And to be honest, like I have very pointed liberal and conservative questions, but we kind of have a fair, like most people, all of y'all are on the same side of the panel right now. So to actually engage it a little bit more, I'm just kind of just running down the other questions. If that makes more sense.
I think immigrant, you're giving them a lot of credit by saying that they work for pretty much any of that, because first off, we're the ones that only people that worked and didn't get anything. As soon as they get over here, like they got like government benefits right now as non-citizens, and they're actually using what we fought for, which is birthright citizen at the 14th Amendment, to get over here. So everything that they're getting came from our effort. So for us to say they're giving us anything is like, that's kind of like a non-starter. We're owed and we need to demand it. And then none of these other groups are any better than us. We were handicapped. It's like the Gladiator movie. Before they went out and they stabbed a man in the leg, and then they told him to go out and fight. Like that's us,
right? And I guess maybe I didn't explain it really good, but I think like the basis of like the whole quote unquote theory is the value system, and the fact that right now the black quote unquote value system is off in comparative to other minorities.
Is yours off? Like my thing, it seems like whenever somebody does something bad that's black, the entire black group will say, "No, this is black culture." But we're the only group of people that takes our lowest common denominator, and we feel like everyone has the answer for it. And that, like, it makes it very difficult to progress. It's almost like a low self-esteem. Like, we look at TV and they say we're bad. So instead of, we could take that same energy and focus on black people that do good things, and then the whole narrative would change, and we could take that same camera and put it in the trailer parks and all. Well, no offense to people that live like that, but they have their meth and their fentanyl and all these things going on in the cartels, and even like when the Asian immigrants come over and they start a lot of massage parlors and stuff, like they have their underclass. Like, where did the drugs and guns come from? They don't come from black people. They come from like overseas. People smuggling it in here. The crime rings, all that, the mobs. But we just have a hyper focus on black criminality, and you know,
I mean, so in essence, you're saying that the value system isn't off. Is more or less like the immigrant theory is a fallacy.
The fact that we're calling it out is evidence in itself. Like you always look around and see a black person on YouTube talking how bad the black community is. So the fact that we have so much of that, like we don't want this just because it's on TV. Like we're not paying the sexy Reg. She's an employee. You know,
her check come from someplace else,
right? And it's by design, and we can't like internalize that. And then, you know, you don't want to look in the TV and just think you're bad all the time. We need to pay more attention to the people that are doing good and let that be an influence. You know.
Gotcha. Hey, Black, what's your thoughts?
Nah, and I agree with him. Like, but you know that's because, I mean, like you said, it's by design, got the power of the media, and that's what's highlighted about us. And, you know, programming and conditioning is real. And if you beat certain images and certain tropes into people's mind, the masses of them will start to put that out as this is who I am. You know, we see that. So, yeah, sexy red is not all of our women, but even if you'll see some of our most educated women with degrees, who will justify her behavior, who sit online and on our timelines, and they will promote every type of whole rap, whole woman, and justify. You don't see none of them really stand up against it, even though they're not like that themselves, even though they wouldn't put themselves out like that. They don't defend it. So yeah, we're not seeing trailer park white people, and we know they exist. But since we're a small population, they can highlight a certain sector of us, and that mass media can influence people. You know, you can see drill rap and know that, yeah, we got J. Cole's and Kendrick's and woke rappers, that the youth, they see certain images and then they start to perpetuate it. So
is that actually impacting our value system?
For sure. Mm-hmm. It's becoming a tool of conditioning. And yeah, there's always exceptions of people who can rise above it. who are stronger than that mentally, and it doesn't affect them, who got family backgrounds or 2-parent households or been to college or HBCU, and they're able to kind of break the bubble. But for
or PWI,
they being conditioned by media, they being conditioned by the internet, and I love us, but we have become, on the mass scale, a very impressionable people. Where we start to regurgitate and replicate what our media puts out, and like you said, it is by design. You're not wrong, but like Malcolm X said, the media is a powerful tool. Who controls the media controls the mind, and so they are putting out certain things, the imagery about Black people for a reason, because you start to regurgitate that. Art imitates and vice versa. So you got to think about it. They know they're not gonna get all of us, but they can get most of us. And I mean, look at our daily conversations.
So be it. We can't save all of us. That's fine.
Tone. I guess I like to hear your perspective on this. Is there a value system issue or not?
Man, it was a lot I was sitting there taking in there. I was kind of in thought there, but yeah, I would definitely say I would say, man, nah, yeah, I don't got nothing. I'm kind of still thinking here.
Gotcha.
I mean,
go ahead, Johnny, and then
Charlie. I'll say, I think you have to deal in reality. Like, and Trey, me and you had this conversation a lot. Like, even last week we sat and we talked about like the reality of like what we're dealing with when we talk about our people, and like and how a lot of the struggle, especially like when we get like a group of us together and we're talking about the solution, a lot of the struggle is going to come from people that look like us. And it's like, how are we going to like effectively deal with that? And like I say, I call them closed door conversations. When I'm talking with Black people, my solutions for the problem are going to sound a lot different than when I'm advocating for Black people in front of, a group of people that don't look like me. It's going to sound a lot different. But when I'm talking with Black people, honestly, the people who give me the biggest pushback on some of these concepts, and when I talk about change and trying to help the Black community, is the Black community. And we have to deal with that, because a lot of the values that would work have been stolen by the Democratic Party, or say hip hop, or say a lot of the things that we believe and how we act as a whole have been based on these things that we're calling out now. But the majority of us are still moving based on these systems. And so
okay, so I would say the majority of us are choosing to move based on these systems, because I do agree with you. The majority of us are moving on these systems, and I think we're glorifying the wrong things, and that's why we keep suffering the same. Because we're the only people who make music that glorifies all the wrongdoing that we do and celebrate. Like, one of the things I noticed,
we're the only culture that doesn't that like glorifies like not snitching and like being gangster and all of that stuff. But you see
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, stop snitching.
No, but it is true. It's even something I noticed.
The Italians love that shit too. Like La Costa Nostra is also a thing. Like it's a bunch of different things.
But they don't make Italians don't make music about glorifying.
There's a lot of things Italian. But that's the one thing.
I understand what you're saying, though. My bad. I just wanted to hop in. I'm my bad. Let me go back to being moderator and like very in the middle, or devil's advocate.
Nah, your opinion is valid too. We need to hear that too.
Straight up. But I have to push back on stop snitching. I think we do need a culture of not collaborating with the enemy. I think.
Go ahead, Johnny. I listen, y'all homeboys, but this is Johnny was just now at my house telling me how he is a certified, if anything ever happens at any point in time, snitch. Johnny, listen, I love this.
Look, I ain't no gangster. I ain't no gangster. Hey, you do something in front of me.
Don't be like you an informant.
Because like you said, if you doing something bad to my community, you gotta go. And like, but we're okay with people. We're okay with the drug dealer staying in the community because nobody want to say nothing. He keep on messing the community up. Then we want to get on here and say, well, if only. But no, we gotta call it out when we see it. It's straight up. Like, so I mean, we can't excuse it on the front end and then on the back end, then try to make the excuses for it.
It's situational.
We either care about morality or we don't. And So if like I said, and like I say, if I feel like we locked in, I ain't gonna do my people wrong and get into something. But like if I see something wrong, I don't care about, and I don't care what people think about me, because I care about my people and I care about morality and a value system for my people. So right is right and wrong is wrong. But that's just where I come from. And when I say our value system is off, of course it is, because somebody could do something wrong and we won't say nothing because of a fucked up value system.
Man,
I might tell you wrong. I ain't about to deliver you to the police, though.
Yeah. Don't be caught up in some street stuff and then go tell on the people you caught up with.
It was him in the red jacket.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. If you do the street stuff, you shouldn't tell. If you sign on the line, I'm gonna be a gangster. You can't tell, because them the rules you chose to live by. I didn't sign up for that. My rules.
I'm just saying you're a civilian. Is that?
Yeah, I'm a civilian. Yeah, but if I want to be a thug, then of course I ain't snitching. But I used to be. I retired.
Oh, Lord. All right. So I guess this would be the last question on this before we get off here. How much does circumstance and exposure really impact a person's outcome today, or black people's outcome today? Again, we're talking about pulling ourselves up by the bootstrap. We are inside America, which is a capitalistic society. A country is based off of you know what I mean, like what your community can kind of like build infrastructure wise, a lot of times off of just basic tax money. Truthfully, I my son plays basketball, and inside there in that district, you got like North Meck, you got Chambers, but then you got Huff. When you drive out to Huff and you see what Huff looked like, just the high school, you're like, this motherfucker by the private school. Like it looks really, really nice. It's really, really well kept. Just the bit, like, and you can see the difference in what the dollars actually does. But yeah, so I asked the question, how much is circumstance and exposure and impact our ability to kind of like change our outcomes today?
I look at circumstance and exposure as equal to knowledge. So, and I think knowledge is the most important thing. Like you were saying, different, like if our kids experiencing different things, and even in my own youth experiencing different things, definitely guided like a lot of the things that I aim to do in life, in my adult life, or even along my path, like growing up. So I would say like a kid who's exposed to art or exposed to some of the finer things is going to be aiming towards those things, rather than a kid who's never seen it. It's not, they don't have the knowledge of what that is, so they'll never try to experience it. So yeah, I think it's very important. I think that's equal to knowledge.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's everything. I think all of us as black men probably can look at our own life trajectory, and maybe you grew up with somebody who wasn't as exposed to certain things as you were, and then you look at your life now and look at theirs and see a stark difference. So, I mean, there's always exceptions of people who can rise through the mud, but I think overall, the more you're exposed, the more you see in life, the more you're educated, the more you travel, the more knowledge you're given, is going to help you. Like, it's really, unless you just don't give a fuck about nothing, you know, it's very rare that somebody who's been exposed to, like you said, knowledge, exposed to travel, exposed to different philosophies, seeing life from different ways, you know, you're going to become a better decision maker, you know, because you have a more vast thought palette. So, and you see that with kids. I work at a university, I work at a college, man. I see the difference between, you know, kids who grew up with their fathers, like, you know, you and your son, you know, basketball, like I deal a lot with the sports teams at our school, and, you know, you see the difference in how them kids carry themselves, how they speak, how they are confident, and you ask them, well, who got you in the basketball? Who got you in the golf? Who got you into tennis? Oh, my granddad, my dad, you know, I started with this. So it's very important what we exposed to. You see the difference from the kids who, you know, didn't have much, you know, they didn't see much. And like I say, there's people who can still rise above that, but it's important for us to know, you know, just like knowing your history, you being exposed, you know who you are, where you came from, you know where you can go. And when you expose kids to it, and you expose black men to more, they know it's more. If all you know is the O Block in Chicago, then that's all you're gonna see. You know, that's all you're gonna do is drill and stuff. But then you see the people who leave, and you see how their demeanor changes. You see the little Durks out of 21 Savage. You see people who distance themselves from these hoods, from these situations. They travel, they start to talk different, they start to dress different, they start to want more because they've seen more. So, you know, exposure is like crucial, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's crucially important to development, and it's also important to how you view yourself, for not just like what you learn, but like how your self-esteem. So I think that's why so many of us, when we see the way we're depicted on TV around the white funded media, that's why we think that we don't have it, or we wouldn't know what to do to get our reparations. And I also think that it's difficult to give the exposures that people need to be successful without resources, which is also why, you know, to keep it simple, I think cash reparations are due to foundational Black Americans. So we can have the resources so we can give the correct exposures that people need, not through education, not through any of those other things, strictly cash resources, the same ones that get in immigration.
Yeah. And I guess before we kind of move on,
hey, I can.
Oh my bad, you left and then you came back. I thought you went.
Yeah, no, I heard the question. I was listening. I just want to make sure the Wi-Fi was popping before I answered. But no, I definitely think it's important, because I mean, even if you look at like a lot of the Black Panthers and a lot of the civil rights leaders, the Malcolms, the Martins, the Garveys,
yes, sir.
A lot of those people had traveled the world and came back with these messages. And
that is important. Malcolm definitely made that exact statement.
You know, I always make the camera example in different perspectives, and I feel like traveling the world and getting experience just adds to the different perspectives and different lenses that you can look at the world through. And it's cool to be able to, like, you know, try to see it from somebody's perspective, but it's a different thing actually have gone out, seen the perspective, and held the camera and see it from their point of view. And so I definitely think that's important. And I also think, you know, if that with that experience and being able to see that, I think you have a responsibility to look at it at a certain way and analyze it and take from it certain things, because if you have the information and you know, you can put a book in front of somebody, if they don't read it, that's a totally different thing. So you got to know what to do with that information, but that information is valuable if you can.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess again, trying to stay as unbiased, but I would say that I do think in the current times that we're in, it is important to look up like just the myth of upward mobility, and really how economically there's more so of a trend towards downward mobility, and that's for Americans in general. With inflation and to me, I think that the bootstrap whole concept is somewhat of a fallacy, and it is easily dispelled through the idea that meritocracy doesn't exist because of generational wealth, and how generational wealth in America is accumulated. Well, we all know the story.
So you're
I
pro
do think,
but
I do think that
cash payments.
Am I pro reparations? That's a different story. I'm just out here moderating. But I will say that I do think that the mentality is important, like individually. But the reality is that there's no group no group has ever lifted themselves up by the bootstrap. It's just the reality.
What about with slaves?
All right, John. But topic like this would be the wrap up. What does a realistic, successful Black community look like? Again, we've kind of like talked through. We kind of went through like a interesting story of a conversation. I would love for like everybody to kind of say what realistically, again, keyword realistically, in 2024. What does a successful Black community look like? and how do we get there? I'll start with Tone, and we can kind of work our way around.
I'm not trying to go down the rabbit hole I would really want to go down and explain all of that. So I just give the hunky dory answer. I honestly don't know what that looks like if I'm just looking at it from a worldly perspective or trying to look at it from that perspective. So it's like my answer for this is, I don't really have an answer where I can say what that looks like. I don't think I can actually picture it from a worldly perspective. I think there's a lot of repair that we need.
So let me ask you this then: what does a successful ethnic community look like?
I was still about to answer to a degree.
Okay.
Like I think there's a lot of repair that we need mentally, myself included. There's still things that I'm learning about. Like I said, just knowledge of who we are, and like that's one of the things we used to talk about all the time when we was younger. Like everybody else kind of knows where all the other ethnicities know kind of where they come from. We don't know that at all. Still to the like outside of fact, like some of us we speculate Africa, we speculate some of us are here, but we don't actually know. We're lost on a lot of that. So that actually has an effect mentally on people because you don't know what you lost on a lot of stuff if you don't know your foundation or where you came from or anything like that. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we need to know, or we need to establish a new foundation. Like if that's the case, I think that's a lot of where the areas. There's a lot of foundational things that we need to address in order to actually be a successful community. Yes. So that's what I would say. And if I was to say what that would look like, that would look like a community that's not asking anybody else for handouts. Like we're not asking, we're a demanding presence. And it's not that we have to demand, if it's necessary, yes, we'll go to war, but that's not what we have. That's not where our power come from. Like, I think that's successful communities are able to delegate, or they know how to do stuff through paperwork, or they know how to do stuff so I think we knowledge is probably the main thing that we need. We actually need a lot of knowledge and a lot of repair, like therapy. And I think we would be successful from there.
We wouldn't go to war, Tom. That's one of our problems.
I'm not gonna say that. I think we have a history where we know like if you start looking at where our people were at through history, we done went to war many times. And our war, we fight different. So yeah, that's another thing. But we don't know our knowledge. So yeah, we miss it.
It sounds like y'all two have a podcast conversation that y'all need to get to on Sunday. A Black.
Like you said, I mean that's a hard, long answer question. I don't know if I got a real realistic answer. It's probably more idealistic, but I would say realistically, it will look self-sustainable in every way. I think a successful ethnic community or community, they don't need anything from anybody. They don't have to ask anything from anybody. And if they want something, they can trade something of equal value. But it will be completely self-sustainable. Everybody is educated. There's a spiritual awakening. But everything we get from us, like what man was talking about earlier with infrastructure, who owns the steel mills, who owns the bricks, who owns the things that we need to build up infrastructure, to build up a community, the physical outskirts of it. And do we have Black institutions in place, or African? Because we have to think broadly in this regard, that we are giving our money back to our overall international community to build ourselves up to where we don't need anybody. We got a Black police force, we have a Black army, we got Black tech, we got Black farmers, we have everything within our own community, to the point where if we need to associate with Europeans, it would be our choice, it would be our trade, and that would be.
What do you think the first step is?
Like the guy before me said, first it's with Black people, there's been a mental and psychological damage. So I feel like there has to be a spiritual awakening to love yourself, to want to do better, to see the state that we in, And then from the spiritual aspect, then we go to our financial aspect of getting financial and economic power, whether it's pooling our resources, whether it's getting behind a natural resources in one of these countries that are being exported around the world. They have real economic power. But yeah, like it starts with just like, it sounds simple and cliche, but like really loving yourself, because when you do that, you start to care. When you start to care, you start to make the right decisions with your choices, with your money, and where are we putting it at? To like have like real power to be at this international table of like, we can't fuck with these people no more because they can stop something. Like we got influence, but we don't really wield it properly. We create these trends, we create culture, but we don't really pool our resources together and everybody hop on and be like, today we're going to do this. This week we're not going to go to Florida because of this, or we don't like really do things that cause waves of change to affect shit. And so we're not really taking serious in this area. In Africa and countries where they need stuff, where they need coffee, where they need gold, where they need cobalt, where they need uranium, where they need actual resources, they give them a little bit more respect, even though they manipulate their leaders. They got something behind them that can back them. And right now, all we got is culture.
And a vote. That's the biggest black export. Yeah.
That's our export right now is culture, and we're not wielding our biggest weapon properly. So for me, it would be like a spiritual awakening. It would be kind of like getting people focused on things that matter. We all fall victim to it, even myself. We had trivial conversations, talk about Blueface and Krishan and Usher and all of these things that we are immersed in, but really don't mean nothing on a grand scheme. And then in a few months, the election will come, and we all gonna become political experts again, and then we'll be like,
right.
I think like realistically, what we could do is like everybody is laser focused on things that matter to the point we can't be ignored. Because right now it's like we ain't really respected. Our leaders are bought. They tout money. Got Drake buying Chanel bags. Jay-Z speak when he wants to, and they're entertainers. Malcolm X already said entertainers are not gonna be the ones that lead us, but that's who they put in front of us to make them our leaders, and then they buy them out. They're not gonna. And if you do speak against the establishment, Kanye, Kyrie, different people who start to speak, you see what they will do to them. Like they're gonna ruin you. So it's like, you want to be rich and powerful as a black man in our country, you gotta like fall in line, and they'll let you keep it. The moment you start coloring outside the lines and you want to speak about Zionism and speak about Jews and speak about oppression and stuff, they gonna get your ass up out of here. You crazy or kill you once. So realistically, I would like for our people to like start caring again about like real issues and not be so easily distracted. Not take somebody get shot in the street for us to care for 2 weeks and then we right back on some bullshit. Like, be sensitive again. So we desensitized right now and don't really kind of care about nothing for too long. So I think we can do that, and then we can start like putting action behind it. Like, what do we need to do now? Like, and that's when some change can happen. But right now, we just hella distracted. If it ain't entertainment, sports is some relationship is 50-50. If eating ass, it's hard.
Man.
I dig it. And your piece kind of like spurred a couple things. I do think that there's definitely an interesting conversation in the future. Maybe we'll do it with, like you said, Zionism, and even the idea that, let me see how I can frame this. How important is it for Black people to care about Palestine? And I think it like a lot of people probably like fairly split on that. Some believe, some don't. I don't know. We might have some Mark Lamont Hills in here. We might have some Officer Tatums. I don't know. But Trey, I tossed that same question to you.
Which question? Oh, can you repeat the question for me?
What does realistically in 2024 successful Black community look like? And I also asked him, I guess the follow-up was will be the first step.
I think the first step would be to for Black people to get on code, and I think we need to self-advocate by these other groups too. And we also need
on code. What's that mean?
Like and if we're ever
is that like advocating for like monolithic thinking, or is that what does that mean?
It means like to self-advocate and to put yourselves, like we have this thing where we talk about Black and brown, but then brown people don't really advocate for Black people. And then on code is not asking the Democrats what they're going to do for us, or asking any politician what they're going to do for us, instead of just voting emotionally. And it's also not accepting a lot of these things, like the narratives about us. Like they always talk about Chicago. Chicago isn't even the murder capital, like per capita, they like to say. So on code is just knowing that what we're up against with this global system, and a lot of things aren't what they seem. So we've also have a lot of things to be proud of that we fought against, because I don't think anybody would have survived all this about. So when they talk about advocating for things, like I don't think we need to be shy about. No other group will be shy about demanding cash reparations. I keep harping on that because if it's not that, it's not reparations. It doesn't even seem like we all agree on that. So if we don't all agree on it, then like there's absolutely no hope. So that's part of being on code, is being as advocate for yourselves the way the ADL advocates for people like Michael Rappaport. We also need a mechanism to be able to.
That was good.
Very well done.
Mechanism to be able to punish.
Very well done.
And also, one more thing I need to add on that's real important. I think we need to get off of this whole. We have so much to be proud of in America that we've done, like with the foundation of Black Americans that have been here since the beginning, to where we had this weird thing where we kind of like latch on to other nations that don't even always respect us, and who we've done so much for, and they've never really done anything for us. So I think we need to focus on what we have here, and as we build ourselves up, then we can better assist, the so-called motherland.
Okay, so you're an advocate for like
delineation,
ADOS, and that's it.
I wouldn't say ADOS. I'm not a fan of ADOS.
No dot. What did you call it?
ADOS. I'm not a fan of them.
Oh, what do you call it? I don't know what you call it.
FBA, Foundational Black American.
Yeah, FBA. There we go.
That's a lineage. ADOS is a group. FBA is just if you can trace your roots to
I'm not
the
updated
1860s.
on my most recent Tariq Nasheed.
But I mean, I don't want to put it on Tariq Nasheed, but it's.
Like, I know. I'm joking. It's
you know what I mean? Like that's part of I think what's important, how we can be. Like we don't have an identity. Y'all said that we need to have an identity. I think that starts with us claiming our roots here, which go back.
So for clarity for me, I guess what's the difference between ADOS and FBA? I thought that it was explaining similar concept.
Well, FBA is a group. I mean, is a lineage. It's like you're Haitian.
Black Americans.
Yeah. So it's not a group. There's no group at all. ADOS is like an organization that's ran by like with leaders and all that.
I thought the acronym meant
American
Descendants of Slavery.
Right.
I guess when I say it, I'm just speaking specifically of that.
Right, but they're talking about putting a foundational Black American on the census, because when you think about all the things we fought for, like with affirmative action, all that, and how it goes to people that it wasn't intended for, that's because we don't have a separate identity. We call ourselves African Americans, just like Elon Musk. So we need to latch. I think the Black community will build once we tap into our roots, because we have a lot to be proud of here. So it's like to circle back to you.
Well, I guess just for clarification, so ADOS and FBA, outside of it being like the BLM, where like there's an organization and then the meeting, they both speak to the exact same group of people, or no? Like the acronym specifically, not the organization.
That's difficult to say, man, because ADS.
Like
ADOS
if you're an American descendant of slavery, does that mean you're a foundational Black
man?
American?
But not all foundational Black Americans have a history of slavery. Some of us were in maroon colonies that were free the whole time. Some of the Gullah Geechee people were never. Okay. They were never enslaved.
I
So
get it. I
you
get
know,
Can I ask which African countries you've been to that kind of made you feel going this foundational Black American way? Like which countries you visited?
it's not really like anything about Africa. It don't have anything to do with Africa at all. It's just not wanting to, because it's almost like this lost child syndrome that people in America had. When in reality, if you read, there were Black people already in America. So we can't. Everyone came from Africa. Everyone has African roots. So when we have to, it's like I want to focus on what we built here instead of like focusing on because a lot of Africans, I mean, a lot of them look down on us, man. They call us Akata, Jarir, all kind of words for us. You know,
did you go to where you felt looked down on?
I just hear the rhetoric. I hear them speak. I hear like there's a senator in Minnesota who said they wanted to cancel Black History Month. I know Candace Owens is an African, but she's Caribbean, and she says we don't need that reparations. Then you have the Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, so they come and kind of show up as Black people, but they don't have our interests at heart. So it's nothing against them, but it's just like when you have dual allegiances, and I can't really expect you to focus on your roots here. Like if I go over there in Kenya and I try to be a political leader there, they're not going to accept me as a representative. But over here, we just have this friendliness to where we just allow people to come in and be our voice. And then they have Africa take over their HBCUs.
But have you ever actually went to a country? Because I mean, I know.
No, I haven't been to one. And I honestly,
okay.
Yeah, I don't really.
Don't say it, Trey. Don't.
I really go to the Caribbean.
What are you about to say?
I don't really have a desire to go to Africa or to go see a slave dungeon where like my people got sold from, but that's not really.
I tried to stop.
Oh man!
I tried to stop it.
Oh man!
I'm gonna pay them to go see where they sold me.
Hey, we were sold from all over Africa. It's crazy.
No, we were sold from mainly the West Coast and like wherever Elamina Castle was. You know what that is? I can't remember a specific country.
I think we got part 3. Yeah. I think we just figured out part 3.
And can I throw one last thing on? As far as the African economy collapsed after.
By the way, it is American representatives in their political government. Even the Pan-African Fair Council of South Africa is American. But I only ask that because I know it's no way nobody's actually been to Africa could be talking that foundational Black American stuff, but.
Foundational Black American is a lineage, man. No matter what, we have a separate lineage.
Trace it all the way back to slavery before DNA even came out. My great grandparents, they wrote our lineage in the size and the size of the Bible. So like,
so in America,
I'm fortunate to have a family to where we can actually trace back to the mid 1700s here.
Okay, and so you FBA brother.
I mean, I wouldn't even do the separatists of FBA.
Man, is a Haitian a separatist or a Jamaican a separatist? Like, why can't we have our own lineage?
Got shipped to Haiti and got shipped to Jamaica. Some might have mixed with the carriers, but most of their indigenous people were wiped out before those slaves came. So it's too much, things that can prove where we're from. You can talk about maroons and different things, but the average Black American wasn't maroons. There were free Blacks, but there's a very small population of that. But there's no progression with
not necessarily true. The Yamasee War were natives too. The Yamasee Indians and so were Mayans. There's a lot of Black roots that are here in America. Even look at the Olmec statue. So I said,
that's like an inkling of percentage of people who have any Mayan, any Native American in them. Majority of us are West African.
According to what?
According to DNA.
23andMe?
Now, but there are people who have oral history that know where they're from. Like everybody isn't just lost in their history. Some people.
My oral history goes back to West Africa. Personally,
some people, they have families.
Most Black people shit
were insulated, and they passed the lineage down, so they know that there are some people who were separated, that were sold different places, and it was lost. But there are some who will live in insulated areas where there was no separation, and they could trace themselves back to the point where it can even be proven now. My great grandmother was telling us we were from Senegal way before Ancestry.com came along. And then when it came along and I did my Ancestry, it says 46% Senegalese. Like she's been saying that since before any proof because she had her great grandmother and stuff. So,
but you know, no slave boats came directly from Africa to North America, right? They went to South America first.
It's the Caribbean first, actually.
Right. You know, like both of them, the current flows of that area. So for us to say that only 400,000 black people that were brought to North America from the translated slave trade ended up being all of us. Anyway, back to answer the original question, though, I don't think we're going to ever be able to progress as a black community if we can't even separate into our own group. Because they say we don't have any culture, but then when we try to embrace our culture, it's like we're being divisive. But they're not being divisive. They're the most tribalistic area in Africa. Like they have whole wars against each other, which I'm not pointing any fingers. But if they have their own tribes over there, why can't we have our own lineage that we hang on to here? And it's almost like a low self-esteem thing. Like we have nothing to be proud of.
I can still hear me because my phone rang, but listen,
yeah, we get you.
Yeah. You can still be proud of what's been built here without separating there. Because our true power is going to come from uniting the diaspora of everybody that's been spread across not even just Africa, from Brazil and all the different places in the world. That's where our true power is going to come from. Like I said, we don't have a resource or nothing that we could take away from the world that they would care about black people right now. Like hip hop, rap, the things that we're talking about we built, we don't own. We can't take nothing from them.
Man, Africa don't own Africa. It's owned by China.
No, it's not. They're investing in it, yes, but for the most part, we still have ownership there. And
we colonized. They have to keep their gold reserves in France.
They
just took them out of Mali, Niger, and
repatronization.
Johnny, this is an ISO right now. Jump out.
If you know in there, it's coming from a place of ignorance to speak on somewhere you never been because you can't believe it until you see it. That China doesn't own it. You know, when you go there, you see nothing but black faces. Are they investing? Are they making moves in certain places on the continent? Yeah, but it's a continent. A huge continent of 54 countries. So you have countries where they haven't touched yet and that we do own it.
I understand that, and that could be all well and good, but how does that benefit me as a foundational black American?
How does it benefit you here calling yourself a foundational black American?
Because I get to tap into my lineage to be proud of all the things we've done here.
Well, you can still be proud of it and still be proud of knowing you came from there. Like,
but if Africans don't have our intentions in mind in America, if they're not all...
You can't speak on people you've never seen or met. Africans do have your attention. There are whole Pan-African councils. They are not slow. They know exactly what we go through, and they are working on bringing you there so you have actual equity and power to do something. Because if you could have built something here, it would have been built by now. So
man, that's not true. We've built a lot of things before, and it sounds a bit parasitic, honestly, bro.
Like MAGA people saying they proud of the America that they got, but they don't own nothing and they live in a trailer park.
Man, I don't know if you can. Are you foundational black American on both sides? Just out of curiosity.
I'm an African and American. Foundational black
American. Like I don't know, like I don't see how you can have pride and then claim the continent that most of us have never been to.
Because I've seen it, because I've touched it, because I've talked to the
But most of us haven't, though.
I know what they think. So if you haven't, you should. The wisdom take person
I'm saying, but Trey, you should at least go.
But I don't have no interest in going to Africa, bro. Like I don't understand why I have to have an interest in going there.
But Trey, if you've never been, then you're doing the same thing that you accuse other people of, just taking the propaganda and just taking what these people say about it at face value without having gone and done the research yourself.
Bro,
and then you can feel it. Like if you've gone there and feel the way, that's cool. But
bro, Africans in Africa are cool. I'm talking about any ones that are here that aren't helping with our movement and they're benefiting for what we've done. Because a lot of them are a lot more docile to white supremacists because they can be deported if they act up too much. Like they don't have, and they also don't have like the beef that we've had, like a centuries long beef that we have in America. They come over here and they're happy to be here. So we need to, like, coffee doesn't get stronger by diluting it. Like, we need to tap into. We've been continuing this fight, the same fight that allowed Africans to come here. We need to keep that fight and focus on this group. When we start bringing people in, a lot of them, not all of them, respect us. Like, we know, that's true. A lot of Africans don't have respect for us.
True. You speaking on a generalization on something you can't prove from somewhere you haven't been.
I can send you some.
They're coming here on an influx. It takes them 200 days plus to get a visa versus us 24 hours to get a visa over there. They're not coming here taking nothing from you. If they come here taking something from you because they working harder.
See, that's what I'm saying. Any African says that benefits from our fighting for them to come here, and they think that they're better because they work harder, is like biting the hand that feeds us, and it really serves us no purpose. We'd have been better off if those things that we fought for went to our lineage and people that don't look down on us. Because we're not, imagine Africans fought for things and we went to their country and benefited from what they fought for and then told them they were lazy.
Their countries and benefit, though. We do.
I don't understand how...
but you don't know that
Pan-Africanism benefits. But like, real quick, how has it ever benefited Foundation of Black Americans? Pan-Africanism.
Hey, fellas.
Hey, Johnny, like they're in a good space.
Okay.
This is definitely like it's a long topic, and I gotta go anyway.
Okay, got you. I wanted to allow y'all to kind of flush it out as much. Again, this is Unpacked, in which, like, very nuanced, in which I didn't know it, but I think that there is very much so a need for further conversation when it comes down to the idea of somewhat quote unquote Pan-African, somewhat like the FBA concept, and just the future of what we think success would look like as Black people. And like, is it coming together as a diaspora? Is it being a united front, boots on ground here in America? I'm learning as I'm listening. So I mean,
this is crazy because we went from talking about Democratic, Republican to we done worked all the way to are we American or African? Like, yeah.
But again, like I said, I'm learning. Like,
is that even a question? We American, bro. What do you mean? We're not African.
No. I mean, I'm just saying that's the discussion that we're having. This is interesting. I like where it's going. Yeah, this gonna be the this can be the next one. I see a third one coming out of this. Like,
yeah. No, I definitely believe we in a great space, because I like having the conversations where we're talking about a balance, because I think both people that we were just listening to want the same thing. We're talking about how to get there. We're talking about we know the destination. We're talking about roots. We talking about
Johnny trying to establish peace. Bump that. Ain't no peace. No.
Ain't no peace. Pan-Africanism is starting Africa.
Johnny trying to middle man and establish some peace. Nah, bump that.
My dog did say tribal, didn't he?
He said, "Yeah, we all can hold hands and get along."
But yeah, again, I think that quote unquote no peace inside a healthy way. I think that the way that
of course.
Both of them was having a conversation. Again, like I said,
that's all. I'm just joking. These all jokes. I don't mean no peace for real. No peace inside a healthy way. Let's keep having a discussion. Bump that dog on ring around the rosy.
Can I get my last word in? I am.
I'm gonna throw to you right after that. I want them to go ahead and like wrap up their last thoughts on the topic. I'm gonna throw to you, and then we'll kind of wrap the entire show up. I know niggas be having work in the morning and shit, so I understand it. We done tapped into the late night. It's 12:11. So again, I guess I'll throw to A Black first, then I'll give it to Trey, and then Johnny, and then we'll kind of wrap.
Yeah. I think I said, as far as your closing statement, what I needed to say. I think it definitely would be great to have this topic on, I guess, Pan-Africanism versus foundational. It's way deeper, and I got a lot more points to make, but I think that deserves its own own podcast for sure. So please invite me and my brother to that one. I would love to talk more about that. It's all dialogue. It's definitely like I'm here to kind of to bring understanding where I kind of sense a misunderstanding in that whole ideology. Because, like I say, I think we can be proud of what's been done here, but I also think that we can still connect abroad as well. And I think the best teacher is travel, is experience. You don't have to go off hearsay. You go and you meet people and you get it in the streets and you talk to the Uber drivers and you can go to the slave castles, but it's way more than slave castles for sure. Me personally, after I went to a few, I don't even like going there no more because it's way more out there to learn and experience and to see, to get an understanding. Because a lot of the things that he's saying, I remember saying too, maybe 5-7 years ago, before I started experiencing this for myself and meeting other people and knowing that, like, oh, this is bigger than us. And yeah, we built stuff here and that's important as well. But yeah, I would like to go deeper into that conversation. But as far as everything else, yeah, I think I said my conclusions on that. And I say I'm glad y'all had me. Definitely tap me back for the next one, and we can finish this conversation for sure. Because I want to make sure I got the right energy for it right now.
Oh no, listen, I get it. I'm a 6:30 waker, so I know it. Trey.
Oh, yeah. I just want to put out, man, no disrespect to the you know what I'm saying, the continent or whatever. And no respect. I know you got family and everything over there, so I don't want to, like, you understand, what I'm saying? I don't want to, offend anything like that. It's just I'm just a hardcore advocate for my lineage here in America, as you can tell with my staunch stance on cash reparations for strictly foundational Black American trace of lineage here. And I think that the best thing we can do, just to answer your last question again, as far as like the Black community getting where it needs to be, I think it takes us, we can't, like you said, we can't ask for anything. It needs to be demanded, it needs to be taken. And we need to also first know that we deserve it. And that's the first step for us having our dignity. And also reading and finding out our own lineage for ourselves. I think a lot of this Pan-Africanism stuff comes from what we've been taught through our regular education. But if you look in, like, there's plenty of books that you can learn about the lineage of Black people that traces back in America for, who knows how long. We're the first Aboriginal people on this continent. So, like I said, I think as we investigate that, our history and everything like that, and we focus on our lineage and we advocate for ourselves, that's the first step to get in there. Because if you don't stand up for yourself, that invites abuse. And with this mentality of this long lost thing, and with this kind of tiptoeing around what we're owed, it's nobody's gonna respect that, and we can't. So I just like to see more of the Black people look at the TV and know that when they see bad things, just know, like, look, we're on a panel with people that aren't on that at all. So why are we talking about Chicago? Let's talk about what we need to be doing and the people that are building right now. I know plenty of people that I can talk to about investments, and I talk about in my field, like with data, and people in the sales. Like, I know people that do all kinds of things. People went to school, and that's what I think about. I could care less about, Chicago. Just like, Joe Biden doesn't care about the fentanyl addicts and the meth heads. So I was land my plane right there.
Johnny.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, this is a good one. Definitely got to do a part 3. Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. right here. On the channel. Y'all tap in. But I want to go to the original question that you had to wrap up about what does success for Black people. Frame it again for me, because it's been
what is realistic success?
Realistic. That's the word.
What does a realistic, successful Black community look like?
I mean, in 2024, and I'll just talk short-term goals to start with, but like this right here, Black people talking about, different, a lot more of this, maybe not just this, but a lot more of this being mainstream. Black people's discussing the goals and discussing our society in a top-down way like this, and not just from a bottom-up controlled way.
All right.
I'll say that. If we're talking long form, next year or so, politically, it looks like a community that's not tied to one political party or one political ideology, and that way they have the freedom to do whatever works best for them. Not just this November, but 2026 and 2028. I'd love to see that for Black people. It's just political freedom to vote wherever you want to vote. Uh, Eventually, I'd love to see us, like y'all said, infrastructure, and not only infrastructure, but infrastructure leaning in towards more political power, and infrastructure that leads into uh, industry, and that employing each other. Like if like a lot of these things we're talking about, like if we're able to build the infrastructure to employ each other, and then we have the political freedom to vote whichever way we want to, there's nothing that would stop us. So I mean, I think politically we're not free yet, but infrastructure wise, we have some building to go, and we need to, we just need to stick together. I'd love to see us be able to have the infrastructure for political power. And I'm always the guy that speak about sovereignty. I think that's the next step after that, but I think that's a little ways down the road. I don't want to talk about that yet, but sovereignty for foundational Black Americans, as Trey would like to call us, so it is something that I would love to see, because I feel like that's the only true way to have like power. Because we talked earlier about like when we gonna stop asking. The only way you stop asking is you start demanding, and the only way you really demand stuff is with guns and butter. And you could get butter, but you got, and I don't want to get into that, but to me,
All
our
right, Danny. Let
success
me
goes into that.
we'll kind of we'll kind of get wrapped up. I mean, we'll wrap it up with what is that, the Melvin quote from Baby Boy. But so I guess if I do answer really quickly, I would say realistically, successful Black community, I think that means educated. I think that means a concentration inside a STEM field. I think that finding an industry and a high earning industry would probably be like really important in building up a lot of the infrastructure. Infrastructure comes from taxes. It comes from like a community gross GDP, and then I would say financial literacy. Those would be like my main things that I would probably say when it comes down to realistic Black community in 2024. On these questions, I'll give my thoughts on the podcast Sunday, 4:30. This has been Unpacked. It's been a really interesting conversation. Again, we kind of ended up going off. We kind of derailed for about 40 minutes into like a really interesting ADOS, or not ADOS, FBA and Pan-African conversation, in which, like I said, I was learning the entire time. Like that's not something that I've overly invested a lot of time researching, and it kind of gives me something else to kind of research and build on to till next week. Again, this has been a To Be Fair show. Guys, I'll give everybody an opportunity, allow everybody to kind of follow your handles, and we out. Start Tone.
I'm Tone, Sir ADOT. Literally SIRADOT. Follow me on any channel.
A Black.
A Black, man, follow me at Mayor of Charlotte, and yeah, that's where you can find me
at. Trey.
Yep. I don't miss a social like that, but I appreciate y'all having me. It's been a real good conversation.
I dig it. Johnny.
At Johnny P. Newton. I'm the host of the To Be Fair show. So you can catch me at the To Be Fair show. We on TikTok, Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can catch me talking this shit there. But yeah, that's all I got. Hit like, subscribe, comment below.
All right, this has been a fun time, fellas. Again, the To Be Fair show. 4:30 is our next stream. Again, a lot of this similar energy, high level conversations, really deep, nuanced conversations. And yeah, again, that's about it. Peace.
I'm packing the